take as long as you need to think about it. Although it's very common for cultivators to join a sect, it's not something you should take lightly, as it will more likely than not affect the rest of your life. Xian Wuhan said to him. And if you ever decide to join a sect, come to the Dragon Essence Temple. It's one of the top sects in the world, and also where I am currently. They'll treat you nicely. I can guarantee you that. Yuan nodded. I will keep that in mind. Sometime later, once dinner was ready, Xiaohua asked Yuan after they were seated at the dining table, Are you going to be okay with so little food, Brother Yuan? Because the Xian family is not aware of Yuan's eating habits, she was worried that the food might not even fill the gap between his teeth. Although it won't be enough to fill my stomach, I don't need a full stomach every time I eat something, he said a moment later. Xiaohua no longer said anything and they began eating shortly later. Many minutes later, after dinner, Yuan said to the Xian family, Thank you for the wonderful dinner. I have to go now. You're leaving already? It's already dark outside. Xian Wuhan said to him, seemingly reluctant to see him leave so quickly. I would like to stay for longer, but my sister should be arriving soon, and I have promised her that I won't make her wait for long. Is that so? Xian Wuhan nodded and said, Then promise me that you'll come to visit me again in the future. She then extended her hand to him, like she was asking for a handshake. Yuan did not hesitate to shake her hands and said, I promise. Once Yuan and Xiaohua left the building a few moments later, Patriarch Xian said to her, You really like him, huh? I have never seen you act so friendly towards another man before. Even though he's extremely talented and powerful, it isn't obvious at glance, and that doesn't change even after you speak with him. He's a very kind and humble individual despite his status, completely opposite of the arrogant geniuses that I am used to seeing on a daily basis. It's a refreshing feeling, Xian Wuhan said with a gentle smile on her face. I cannot argue with that. Talented cultivators like him are very rare nowadays. They are usually filled with arrogance, and the more talented they are, the worse their character. It only makes one wonder what kind of background he's from. Patriarch Xian nodded in an approving manner. Why don't you go talk to your grandfather? Let him know about the situation and see if he can convince Taoist Yuan to join the sect, he suddenly suggested. However, Xian Wuhan shook her head and said, I will let Grandpa know about his existence, but I won't tell him to convince Taoist Yuan. We can't look desperate after all. Meanwhile, outside the building, Yuan said to Xiaohua, I am going to log off for now. See you later, Brother Yuan. Xiaohua said to him before disappearing into the necklace. A few moments later, Yuan left the cultivation world and proceeded to wait for Yuro to return in the real world. Brother, I am back. I can finally play with you tomorrow. Yuro's excited voice resounded outside his room, and Yuan could hear the sound of her running in the hallway. Welcome back, Yuro, Yuan said to her with a smile on his face after she entered his room a moment later. Light's novel. Let me change out of my school uniform and prepare dinner for you first. I will be right back, Yuro said to him, and she ran outside before Yuan could even tell her to calm down. About half an hour later, Yuro returned to his room with all of the necessities on a small cart. How was your day, brother? Do you think you'll be able to make it to Spring City by tomorrow morning? Yuro asked him as she wiped his skinny body with a warm, wet towel. You have underestimated me, Yuro. I am already in Spring City. Yuan responded with a smile. Really? I bet you were already close to it. Yuro said, completely unaware that he'd traveled over 30,000 miles and spent 350,000 gold coins just to get there. You have no idea, Yuan said. And what do you mean tomorrow morning? Can you not play tonight? I would love to play tonight, but I have piano practice at home early tomorrow morning, so I have to sleep right after this, she said as she changed the wet towel and wiped his body for the second time. I see. Then I will also sleep early tonight to make time pass by faster, Yuan said. After cleaning and feeding Yuan, Yuro went to shower and eat her own dinner before going to sleep, not even bothering to spend a few minutes on the internet as usual. The following morning, Yuro woke up early and spent 2 hours with piano practice before returning to Yuan's room to wash his face and feed him breakfast. Let's meet at the front of the city by the entrance, Yuro said to Yuan as she wiped his lips after breakfast. Lights vol omicronem. Sounds good. I will see you there, Yuan said. A few minutes later, Yuan entered the game while Yuro returned to her own room. Xiaohua, let's go. We're going to meet my sister now. Xiaohua nodded her head, feeling slightly nervous for some reason. By the way, can you do me a favor? Yuan suddenly asked her as they walked to the front of the city. What is it, Brother Yuan? She looked at him. Can you not call me Yuan when we are with my sister? I'd like to surprise her later, he said. Xiaohua tilted her head with a puzzled expression on her face after hearing his words. It's a bit complicated, but my real name is not really Yuan. I mean, it is, but it isn't at the same time, he revealed to her.
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If you'd like to request updates on any novel, consider becoming a Patreon or Ko-fi member. Based on your membership tier, I'll create additional parts for the novel you're interested in. Normally, I'll only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel due to limited time. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really helps.
Then what should Xiaohua call Brother Yuan? She asked him. Tian. You Tian. That is my real name, Yuan said to her. Xiaohua understands, Brother Tian. She nodded her head. Thank you, Xiaohua. Yuan and Xiaohua continued to approach the city's entrance. Many minutes later, they arrived at the city gate, and to their surprise, there was a small crowd gathered there and looking like they were surrounding something, and they were all young men. Fairy lady, what is your name? I am Bai Chun from the Heavenly Tiger Academy. Forget about him, young fairy. My father is an elder at the prestigious Nine Crane sect. Why are you standing here by yourself, young lady? Are you waiting for someone? Why don't you come with me instead? A clear and delightful-sounding voice suddenly interrupted these young men. I am sorry, but I have no interest in accompanying any of you, and I already have a schedule with someone else. Are you saying this person you are waiting for is more important than me, Inzhou, inner disciple of the mighty Jade Fist Mountain? An arrogant voice resounded afterward. That's right. The feminine voice responded, sounding as calm as a still pond. This person is more important to me than anything else in the world. This voice belongs to... Yuan could instantly recognize this beautiful voice even if she mumbled a single word with 1,000 people talking loudly around her. The audacity. I don't care if you have a pretty face, but how dare you slap my face before my fellow disciples? Yuro. Yuan shouted her name as he approached the crowd. Brother? Yuro's eyes flickered brightly after hearing his voice. Although it sounded clearer and more energetic than usual, she would never mistake his voice for another's. Who the hell are you? The crowd around Yuro immediately turned their attention to Yuan with frowns, who wore a calm on his face. Oh, are you perhaps the person she's waiting for? The person that's more important than me? Then you have exactly 3 seconds to turn around and leave Before the man could even finish his sentence, Yuan took a step forward and swung his sword at a speed that could not be followed with one's eyes, stopping directly before the man's neck. I don't care who you are. You have 3 seconds to leave her alone before I send you to hell. Yuan spoke in a cold and demanding voice, his gaze filled with a dreadful feeling that threatened to destroy anything that dares to disobey his command. Feeling the cold blade pressing against his neck, the man named Inzhou didn't even dare to swallow. This young man is in the 5th-level spirit warrior realm. He's definitely a genius disciple from a renowned sect. I cannot mess with him. Inzhou cried inwardly after sensing the powerful aura emitting from Yuan's body. There must have been a misunderstanding, young master. I will immediately leave. Light's novel. Once the disciples from the Jade Fist Mountain left, the others also left in silence, not daring to offend this mysterious expert that came out of nowhere. Brother Yuan. Xiaohua was dumbfounded by the fierceness shown by Yuan just now, as this is her first time seeing him emit killing intent towards another human being. In fact, she didn't even know he could be this domineering. When the path between the siblings was cleared and Yuro could finally see the tall and handsome young man that stood not too far away from her, she covered her mouth from shock, and her eyes flickered with many emotions simultaneously, causing it to become teary. You are taller than I'd anticipated, Yuro. Yuan spoke with a warm smile on his face, his gaze at the beautiful young lady before him. Brother Tian, you... Yuro was speechless. Even though she'd prepared in advance what she wanted to say to him, after seeing her brother, who had been crippled for nearly his entire life, standing and looking completely healthy, she was simply at a loss for words. "What's wrong, Yuro? Why aren't you saying anything? Cat's got your tongue?" Yuan said to her after waiting long enough. "Brother Tian." "What?" In response to his words, Yuro lunged herself at him with her arms wide open while crying out loud, "I cannot believe it, you look even better than I'd imagined you would if you were healthy." Yuan immediately opened his arms to catch her in his embrace before hugging her tightly, something he has been wanting to do for many years, but was not physically capable of. However, with Cultivation Online's 100% immersive system, it finally allowed Yuan to feel Yuro's warmth, and it allowed Yuro's dream to witness Yuan being healthy again to come true. And albeit they were only inside a game and not in the real world, it still meant a great deal to them. "Yes, you also look a lot different than I'd imagined," Yuan said to her. A few minutes later, once Yuro cried enough and calmed down, Yuan said to her, "Let me introduce you to my little friend who has been with me since the beginning and helped me a great deal since then. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that if not for her, I wouldn't be here right now. I have said this before, but she's like another little sister to me now." Lights fell. Yuro turned to look at the pretty young girl standing behind Yuan. What a pretty girl. She looks just like a doll. Yuro was surprised by Xiaohua's doll-like appearance. There's no doubt that Xiaohua would grow up to be a very beautiful woman. "Nice to meet you, Brother Tian's sister. Xiaohua is Xiaohua," she introduced herself a moment later. "She's an NPC, right? Why is she talking in third person?"
Yuro asked Yuan.
"Is that weird?" "I find it very cute," Yuan said. "Cute?" Yuro looked at him with slightly narrowed eyes. "Anyways, I am called Yuro. Since Brother Tian treats you like a little sister, let's try to get along, okay?" Yuro extended her hands toward Xiaohua for a handshake. Xiaohua nodded and shook her hands, yet there was this fierce atmosphere between the two of them, almost like they were standing on an invisible battlefield. After shaking hands with Xiaohua, Yuro turned to look at Yuan's handsome appearance some more, almost as though she was trying to engrave his image into her soul. "Anyway, now that we are together, what do you want to do, Yuro?" Yuan asked her a moment later. "I haven't really thought about it, but I would like to raise my cultivation a little bit first. I don't want to be a burden after all." "You don't have to worry about that since I will never see you as a burden. In fact, I would like you to rely on me, as I can only do something for you in this world," Yuan said to her. "Thank you, brother." She nodded. "Xiaohua, are there any quiet places we can go so she can cultivate peacefully?" Yuan then asked her. "We can rent a cultivation room," she quickly said. "They are made specifically for these kinds of situations where cultivators need a place to cultivate in peace, but do not have a place of their own." "A cultivation room? That sounds very interesting," Yuro said. "Where can we find one?" "There are at least one in every city, so there should be one here too." "Let's ask around," Yuan suggested. A few minutes later, after speaking with some of the pedestrians, they learned of a place called Cultivator's Haven that was only a few blocks away, so they began making their way towards that place. Sometime later, they stood before a large and tall building that had over 20 floors, resembling a pagoda. Once they entered the building, one of the receptionists there noticed them and immediately waved her hands at them. "Welcome to Cultivator's Haven. How may I assist you?" the beautiful lady asked them once they approached her. "Hello, we would like to rent a room for cultivation," Yuan responded. The receptionist looked at them and asked, "One room for each of you, or just one room?"
"One room is fine," he said.
"Then how long would you like to rent the room for?" Yuan turned to look at Yuro and asked her, "How long?" "I don't want to spend too much time on cultivation when I am with you, so a few hours is enough," Yuro said. Yuan nodded and returned to the receptionist. "4 hours is enough." However, the receptionist responded with an apologetic expression. "I'm sorry, but we cannot rent the room for less than 24 hours at a time. Though, you can leave at any time you want." Light's novel. "Okay, then we'll do 24 hours." Yuan nodded. "Thank you. Now, as for the room itself, which floor would you like a room in?" "What's the difference?" Yuan asked. We have a total of 21 rooms available in our Cultivator's Haven, and the higher floor you go, the more effective your cultivation will be since we have placed special arrays to improve the quality of spirit chi in that room. Of course, it all comes at a higher cost. The rooms on floors 1 to 9 will have normal quality spirit chi, whilst floors 10 to 20 will have higher quality spirit chi, about a 30% improvement compared to cultivating outside normally, and the rooms on floors 1 to 9. As for the rooms at the peak of the building, the 21st floor, it's about a 50% improvement. There are only 3 rooms available on that floor, and 2 of them are already occupied. Which floor would you like a room on? The receptionist asked him after explaining their structure to him. I want the room on the 21st floor. Yuan responded without hesitation, as he only wanted the best for you, Ro, and would not accept anything less than the best. Are you sure, esteemed guest? It'll cost 1,000 gold coins to use the 21st floor rooms for 24 hours, and you'll only be using it for a few hours. The receptionist seemed slightly taken aback. 1,000 gold coins. Ro's eyes widened with shock, and she quickly tugged at Yuan's sleeves. Brother, you don't have to spend so much money on me. We'll only be here for a few hours. However, Yuan shook his head with a resolute expression on his face. Nonsense. This is the only way I can repay you for your sacrifices in the real world, and I am not going to be humble about it. I will pay for the room even if it costs 100,000 gold coins. Yuan quickly placed the money on the counter before Ro could further persuade him and repeated, I want a room on the 21st floor for 24 hours. Right away, esteemed guest. The receptionist accepted the money with a bright smile on her face, as this would reflect positively on her position as someone who managed to rent out such an expensive room. Brother, to think you'd really spend 1,000 gold coins without blinking an eye. How on earth did you obtain such wealth anyway? Most players have at most a few dozen gold coins after grinding for days, and even the richest players out there that spend real money on the game wouldn't dare to spend so lavishly. Ro sighed loudly, shocked speechless by Yuan's unhealthy spending habit. Lights fell. Alas, if only she knew that he'd spent 350,000 gold coins just to meet her. One could only imagine the face she'd make then. If you don't mind me asking for your name, esteemed guest. Yutian. Yuan stuttered. Young Master Yutian, right? Please give me a moment to bring you the key. A few moments later, the receptionist returned with a circular medallion that appeared to be made from some sort of jade or crystal and handed it to Yuan. The time will start from the moment you open the door with a key, and once the 24 hours is up, the room will block all spirit chi from entering the room. The receptionist explained to him afterward. I see. Thank you. Yuan said to her before walking up the stairs with the group. After walking up 20 flights of stairs, Yuan and his small group finally reached the 21st floor. On this floor, there existed only 3 doors made of stone that were eventually distanced from each other, and a stone tablet right beside each door. 2 of the 3 stone tablets already had a key inserted into the hole, signaling that it was already occupied. Therefore, Yuan and the others walked to the stone tablet that had an empty keyhole. After inserting the key into the keyhole, the stone door began to tremble before it started opening. However, it was unlike any normal door, and it opened by levitating off the ground. Once they walked into the empty room, the stone door closed itself, sealing them inside. A few moments later, the empty room began filling with rich and dense spiritual energy, and a large drawing resembling a magic circle appeared on the floor that spread throughout the entire room. Wow, this feels entirely different from the spirit chi from the outside. Yuan expressed his surprise after feeling the spiritual energy in the room. There's a special array in the room that attracts spirit chi and increases its quality. Xiao Hua explained to him. Array? What is that? Yuan continued to ask her. Arrays are also known as formations, and they are techniques with an area of effect created by array masters, and anything inside that formation will have to obey the law set by the formation master within the array. For example, if one were to set a movement restriction array inside this room, we would have our movements restricted in some way until we leave this room. I see. So that's what these weird symbols on the floor are? Yuan said as he looked at the massive magic circle on the floor. Array circles usually reveal themselves after activation, hence why they are often used as traps by array masters, Xiaohua said to him. Anyway, I am going to start cultivating now. Yu rose suddenly said as she sat down in the middle of the room in the lotus position. A few moments later, her breathing calmed down and became somewhat rhythmic. You have cultivated for the first time, unlocking Qi experience. A notification appeared before her as she absorbed her first Qi. Due to Qi gathering array, your Qi absorption rate has increased slightly. 1/5, 000. March 5th, 000. April 5th, 000. June 5th, 000. July 5th, 000. September 5th, 000. While Yu Rou cultivated in silence, Yuan mumbled to Xiaohua in a low voice to not distract Yu Rou. Xiaohua, do you think you can let my sister learn the divine grade technique, too? He asked her. However, Xiaohua quickly shook her head and said, because Xiaohua is not from the lower heaven, Xiaohua cannot help those in the lower heaven, or she will be punished by the heavens. Huh? Then why are you helping me? Yuan looked at her with a baffled face. Light's novel. Because Xiaohua has chosen Brother Tian to assist her with the Supreme Heaven's legacy, and Xiaohua can only help those who are participating in the legacy. I have heard this before, but what exactly is the Supreme Heaven's legacy? The Supreme Heaven's legacy is a mission given to Xiaohua by the heavens that she must fulfill, and Xiaohua's mission is to find someone who can climb the stairway to heaven and reach the Supreme Heaven. Why are you burdened with this mission? And what happens if you fail? Yuan raised his eyebrows in a puzzled manner, feeling more confused than in the beginning. However, Xiaohua did not immediately respond to him, even looking hesitant on speaking, almost like she was afraid of something. If you don't want to tell me now, you don't have to. Tell me whenever you feel ready, I'll always be willing to listen, Yuan said to her a moment later. Thank you, Brother Tian. She nodded with a relieved look on her face. Then can you tell me about the stairway to heavens? He continued to ask. Yes. The stairway to heaven is a path that will lead one to a higher realm if they manage to pass the challenges on that path. Light's novel. Oh, I remember you saying something about defeating the realm guardian before we can ascend to a higher realm. Yuan suddenly recalled his conversation with her around the time he defeated the Jade Frog. Xiaohua nodded and continued. There are multiple stairways to heaven in this world, and there is a realm guardian at the end of every stairway before one can ascend to the next realm. Then where is the stairway to heaven? I would like to see it. Brother Tian is still too weak to challenge the stairway to heaven. He'll only die if he went right now. Xiaohua spoke to him with a serious expression on her face. At what level should I challenge it then? Spirit Grandmaster. That's the lowest requirement for climbing the stairway to heaven even if you are a genius, she quickly replied. Spirit Grandmaster, that's quite far away. Yuan sighed. With Brother Tian's talent, he'll reach Spirit Grandmaster in no time. Xiaohua spoke in a confident voice. About an hour later, Yu Rou opened her eyes and spoke in an excited voice. Brother, I have entered the first level Spirit Apprentice and became a cultivator. You have succeeded in breaking through your mortal shackles, becoming a Spirit Apprentice. All stats plus 50. Congratulations, Yu Rou, Yuan said to her with a smile on his face. I am going to cultivate some more before we start our adventure. Please be patient with me just a little longer, Brother Tian, she said. Take as long as you need. I won't complain no matter how long you make me wait. Yuan said with a bittersweet smile on his face. If Yu Rou has the patience to take care of him nearly every day for the past 5 years without uttering a single complaint, he definitely won't complain about a few mere hours. After spending another hour inside the cultivation room, Yu Rou entered the second-level Spirit Apprentice realm. You have absorbed enough Qi for a breakthrough. You have reached second-level Spirit Apprentice. All stats plus 75. 2 more hours later, she entered the third-level Spirit Apprentice. You have absorbed enough Qi for a breakthrough. You have reached third-level Spirit Apprentice. All stats plus 100. Brother, I have cultivated enough. Let's do something else. Yu Rou said to him afterward. Are you sure? You can cultivate some more if you want, he said to her. Honestly, I want to continue cultivating because I don't want to waste the 1,000 gold coins you'd spent to rent this room, but I also don't want to waste time cultivating here. Yuan sighed with a perplexed expression on her face. I'm telling you, it's only 1,000 gold coins. I can earn that much by killing a few monsters and selling their monster cores, he said to her. Really? You can earn that much money from fighting monsters? Yuan looked at him with suspicious eyes. If one could earn money using that method, wouldn't everyone be rich with gold coins by now? Of course. Yuan nodded. Anyway, if you want to leave, let's go buy you some equipment. We cannot have you leaving the city bare-handed, he said to her. Yuan nodded and followed Yuan outside the room. But before they could leave, they had to pull a lever next to the door so that it would open. After leaving the room, Yuan took the key from the stone tablet and walked downstairs with the others. There are still 20 hours left. Give it to the next person that comes here. Yuan said as he handed the dumbfounded receptionist the key. Esteemed guest, you can simply keep this key with you and use it the next you come to our Cultivator's Haven. Furthermore, we have many branches across the eastern continent, and as long as you have this key, you can rent a room in any of the other branches. The receptionist explained to him. Really? Yuan raised his eyebrows. Then I'll give it to my little sister here. She can use it in the future. Since he can cultivate by consuming monster cores, he didn't need to use niche places like the Cultivator's Haven to improve his cultivation. I would also like to spend 30,000 gold coins to buy more time in case she needs it in the future, Yuan said as he handed the money to the surprised receptionist. Right away, esteemed guest. The receptionist quickly accepted the money and ran to the back. Light's novel. Brother. Yuan suddenly called out to him. What? He turned to look at her with an innocent-looking face. 30,000 gold coins. Even if you have that much money, you shouldn't have spent it on me, she quickly lectured him. 30,000 gold coins were worth about $300,000 in the real world. It was a massive fortune to spend on anything, much less renting out some cultivation room.
Trust me, Vayuro.
It's only 30,000 gold coins. Your brother has plenty left. And it's a good investment in case we cannot play together and you want to improve your cultivation in a safe environment. Although it may seem overboard, you are already behind the majority of the players in terms of cultivation, and this will help you catch up even if it's only a little. Yuan was speechless, mostly because what Yuan said made sense. There will definitely be days where they won't be able to play with each other, and if she wants to improve cultivation during such days, she can simply go to the Cultivator's Haven and cultivate safely and peacefully, as she didn't like fighting or shedding blood. A few minutes later, the receptionist returned with a new key and handed it to Yuan. Esteemed guest, there is 40 days worth of time in this key. Please keep it safe. Huh? 40 days? Yuan raised his eyebrows, as the math didn't add up. Yes, we have decided to give you 10 days as a bonus for doing business with us. The receptionist said with a smile on her face. Cultivator's Haven has been added to your associations. Your relationship with Cultivator's Haven has slightly increased from doing business with them. I see. Thank you. Yuan accepted the new key before giving it to Yuan. Lights fell. Thank you, brother. She accepted the key. Oh, I happen to have an extra storage pouch here. You can take this and keep your items inside. Yuan said as he handed her a storage pouch. Since he also has a spatial ring, he didn't need a storage pouch. You also have a storage pouch? Just how on earth did you obtain such a rare treasure? Only a handful of players have a storage pouch, and they are all top players. Yuan looked at him with wide eyes. Did he really just play around this entire time? There was simply no way that a casual player would have so much money at this point of the game, much less a storage pouch. Just what on earth has he been doing in this game? It was given to me as a gift, Yuan said. A gift? Whoever gave you this must be incredibly rich and generous. Yuan sighed in admiration. Anyway, let's find a store and get you some equipment, Yuan said a moment later. I feel bad for making you waste so much money on me, brother. You are spoiling me too much. I am only getting started, he responded with a proud expression, feeling refreshed that he can finally be of help to Yuan. In fact, I am going to spoil you until I am satisfied. Yuan merely shook her head and spoke with a bittersweet smile. Although I am grateful, don't blame me when you are out of money. I can simply hunt a few monsters and sell their monster core at that time," he said with a bright smile on his face, and they began walking around Spring City in search of an equipment store. After walking around the city for some time, Yuan and the others finally decided on an equipment store that was named Spring City's Spiritual Treasures. Once they entered the store, the middle-aged man behind the counter shouted, "Welcome to our equipment store. What kind of equipment are the young ones looking for?" "What kind of weapon do you want to use?" Yuan asked her. "I'm not sure, but something light and small is preferred," she said. "Something light and small, huh?" The middle-aged man began to ponder for a moment before speaking. "We have daggers, throwing knives, and fans. Which of these suit the young ladies' taste more?" "Fans? They are considered as weapons." Yuan was surprised, as this is his first time hearing such a thing. Of course, anything can be a weapon in the hands of a cultivator. However, fans are not commonly used due to their fragile appearance and weak presence, and most people prefer something that looks strong or cool, something like a sword. The middle-aged man explained to him. "Can I look at the fans?"
Yuan then asked.
"Sure thing. These are the best fans we have in store at the moment." The middle-aged man then retrieved a long wooden box from the room behind and placed it on the counter. Upon opening the box, 3 beautiful fans that seemed to be made of special materials were revealed to Yuro.
"Wow.
It's beautiful." Yuro quickly became fond of these fans. However, her excitement disappeared as quickly after seeing the prices for these fans. Jade fan. Grade. Spirit. Quality. High. Physical strength required. 100. Mental strength required. 250. Price. 60,000 gold. Red metal fan. Quality. High. Physical strength required. 170. Mental strength required. 300. Price. 75,000 gold. Spirit weaver. Quality. Peak. Physical strength required. 50. Mental strength required. 300. Price. 200,000 gold. Lights novel. Do you have something less expensive? A common fan is fine, too, Yuro said to the middle-aged man while sighing inwardly. There was simply no way that she could shamelessly ask her brother to buy something so expensive for her after he'd already wasted 30,000 gold on her. If you want something normal, you can find them on the shelves over there. Most of them are less than 5 gold coins. The middle-aged man spoke as he pointed at the wooden shelves by the window. However, Yuan suddenly spoke as the middle-aged man prepared to close the wooden box. "Wait, I will buy the Spirit Weaver." The middle-aged man immediately stopped his movements to look at Yuan, as did Yuro, who stared at him with a gawking expression on her face. "Don't look at me like that, Yuro. I know you want it since you were staring so intensively at it," Yuan said to her with a smile as he paid the shopkeeper. "Lights fell. Even if I want it, you can't spend 200,000 gold just like that." "Just how much money do you have, brother?" she said to him, wondering if he'd taken out a loan from somewhere shady. "I have enough," he said with a smile. "Thank you for the purchase, young master." The middle-aged man changed the way he addressed Yuan, even speaking in a more respectful voice. After counting the money, the middle-aged man handed the beautiful white fan to him and said, "The reason this one is more expensive than the others is not only because of its peak quality, but because this treasure was born naturally, and naturally born treasures are naturally more expensive than man-made treasures." After accepting the white fan, Yuan extended his arms at Yuro and said to her, "Money is meant to be spent or else it isn't worth anything, Yuro. Furthermore, this is only a game. Accept it." While that is true, you still shouldn't spend so lavishly. Who do you think you are? Player Yuan, the richest player in the game. Yuro shook her head with a defeated smile on her face. The smile on Yuan's face immediately stiffened after hearing her words, and he didn't dare to respond to her question, fearing that he might reveal his identity sooner than he'd planned. A few moments later, Yuro looked at the spirit waver with sparkling eyes. "This fan is truly beautiful. While I still want to fight using servants in the future, it definitely won't stop using this fan either." Hearing Yuro's words, the shopkeeper suddenly said, "If you want servants, you can simply go to the beast contract shop that's down the street. You can find all sorts of beasts there. Really? Let's go take a look, brother, Yuro quickly said to him. Okay, he nodded. They left the equipment store shortly later and then went straight to the beast contract shop that was mentioned by the middle-aged man. Welcome to our beast contract store. Are you looking to form a contract with a beast today, young guests? The receptionist behind the counter called out to them after seeing them enter the store. We're just looking around for now, Yuro said. Perhaps I can help you with what you're looking for. What kind of beasts are you looking to get? We have matured beasts, young beasts, and even ones that are waiting to hatch. You sell even unhatched beasts? How does that work? I thought you can only form a contract with beasts with a will. Yuro asked. We simply do what's called a force contract, which will forcefully establish a relationship between the unhatched beast and the seller, so that they will be contracted to you immediately after their birth. Most customers tend to go for unhatched beasts because they are much easier to train than the young ones, while the mature ones are harder to control. Of course, unhatched beasts are also more expensive than the others. Do you want to buy a servant here, Yuro? Yuan asked her sometime later. She shook her head and said, No, I don't think I want to form a contract in such an unhealthy manner. I'd rather not force a contract and find a beast that's willing to become my servant, which will make our relationship that much more trustworthy and real. I understand, Yuan nodded. After leaving the contract beast store, Yuan asked Yuro, What do you want to do now that you have a weapon? Since this is a game, we should be completing quests and clearing dungeons for rewards, right? She said to him. What have you been doing with Xiaohua? She then asked. Well, we mostly wander the wilderness and fight monsters, he responded after a quick ponder. That's all you've been doing? What about quests? She looked at them with wide eyes. We completed only 2 quests so far. 2. And you somehow managed to obtain so much money. I don't believe you, brother. There must be something unique that you're doing differently from the other players for you to have so much money. Then, do you want to hunt monsters with us? Of course, we'll only fight monsters at your level, Yuan suggested. However, she shook her head and said, We can fight monsters later. I want to experience more of this world first, so I am going to do a few small quests. You know where to find quests? Yuan raised his eyebrows. Most shops hand out quests if you asked, she nodded. Where did you learn that?
I didn't even know about that, he said.
The internet is a wonderful source of information. You can learn almost everything on it. Anyway, this is how most players are earning their money, by doing quests and clearing dungeons. But since we have plenty of time to play together, I want to enjoy the casual things in this game with you before we start doing the serious stuff like clearing dungeons and hunting monsters. I am okay with that, Yuan nodded. I will follow you around now, so lead the way. Okay. Yuro then led Yuan around Spring City until she found a medicine store and went inside. Hello, I am looking for a quest. Does this store need assistance with something? Yuro asked the receptionist a moment later. The receptionist nodded and said, Oh, thank you for asking. I have been running low on some herbs, so if you don't mind, can you bring me 3 genes of spirit grass? They can be found 10 miles away from the city. You have received a quest from Mr. Chong's medicine shop. Quest: Gathering spirit grass. Difficulty easy. Quest description: Bring back 3 genes of spirit grass to Mr. Chong's medicine shop. Reward: 30 silver. We'll be back with the spirit grass. Yuro said to the old man before walking out of the store with Yuan. That's it. Yuan was surprised by how easy it was for them to receive quests. What did you expect, brother? Yuro looked at him weirdly. Nothing, it's just that compared to the quests I have done, this is kind of boring. I don't know what kind of quest you've done, but this is quite normal for quests, and it's also very popular among the players since it's relatively safe and rewarding. Light's novel. 30 silvers are rewarding. Yuan raised his eyebrows. Compared to the rewards he's been given, 30 silvers is practically nothing. Seeing Yuan's doubtful look, Yuro said, 30 silvers may not seem much to someone as rich as you, but it's a considerable amount for other players. If one completes these quests 10 times, they would have enough for common equipment and whatnot. Repeatable quests, huh? Yuan nodded. Anyway, let's go harvest some spirit grass. I have already done some research last night about this place, so I know pretty much everything that's around Spring City, including the location of Spirit Grass, Yuan said as she led Yuan outside the city. As expected of you. Always prepared. Yuan smiled at her enthusiasm. Sometime later, they left Spring City and began making their way towards the Spirit Grass. Light snivel. Brother Tian, there are some low-level spirit apprentice beasts ahead. Xiao Hua suddenly warned them. Yuan then said to Yuan, I will take care of them. Be careful, brother. She nodded. Yuan then retrieved the starry abyss and silently approached the monsters. Three-horned pig at the third-level spirit apprentice. This is a good time for me to use the starry abyss and practice my dagger skills. Yuan thought to himself. Once he was close enough, Yuan suddenly rushed forward and swung the starry abyss according to the techniques he'd learned from the thousand-knife techniques.
Whoosh.
The black dagger in Yuan's grasp flickered, and the three monsters were cleanly beheaded the following second without even having the chance to react. HM? This feeling isn't that bad. Yuan looked at the starry abyss with a pleasantly surprised face. Meanwhile, Yuan stared at the scene with a shocked expression. His movements are so fast and crisp. I didn't even notice his arm had moved until he beheaded the monsters. She cried inwardly after witnessing Yuan's prowess. If only she knew that this is his first time wielding a dagger. That was amazing, brother. You looked like an entirely different person just now. She praised him afterward. I guess you weren't lying when you said that you had hunted a lot of monsters. Your cultivation must be fairly high right now. What's your cultivation, brother? She then asked him. That's a secret, he said with a mysterious smile on his face. Why would you keep that a secret? She raised her eyebrows. Because it's for a surprise I have for you later, he quickly replied. Yuan narrowed her eyes at him with a suspicious gaze. Seeing this, Yuan laughed nervously before saying, Anyway, now that the monsters are dealt with, let's continue. Huh? You're going to leave just like that? What about these three monsters? Yuan suddenly asked him. What do you mean? What about these three monsters? Yuan tilted his head in a puzzled manner. Don't tell me you were actually going to leave behind so much material on the ground. That's so wasteful. If we sell these monsters' meat and bones to the store, we can earn much more money, she explained to him. Oh, I never thought about that. He mumbled in a low voice. Did he really earn all that money just from selling monster cores? I cannot imagine how many monster cores one would need in order to earn hundreds of thousands of gold coins. Yuan shook her head helplessly as Yuan, who didn't even know about selling the monsters' materials. Brother, we can either chop these pigs up like a butcher would and sell their materials separately, or just sell the whole corpse at once. Which method would you rather choose? We'd earn more money from selling the materials individually, but it'll also require much more work, Yuan said to him a moment later. Let me chop them up for you, Yuan said to her. Do you know how to? Yuan looked at him with a doubting gaze. Butchering a whole monster is not something one can do without training and experience. Yes, I have this cooking technique called thousand-knife technique, and when I look at these corpses, my mind automatically tells me how to butcher it with my dagger almost like it's only natural, Yuan said to her. Really? But I am more interested in why you have a technique meant for cooking, she said to him. I'm not sure since I have never done it, but I feel very confident when looking at it. Yuan approached the three-horned pigs with the starry abyss still in his grasp. He then kneeled in front of the corpses and began cutting monster corpses with a dagger. His movements were neither too slow nor too fast, with each cut done in a single smooth motion, making all of his movement appear extremely natural, almost like he has years of experience already.
Wow.
And you learned that from a cooking technique? Yuan mumbled in awe.
Yes.
Do you want to learn it too? I still have the technique book with me, Yuan asked her. You can share techniques with others? Yuan raised her eyebrows. We'll know once we try it. Let me finish up butchering this pig, though. After completely butchering the first horned pig perfectly, Yuan began working on the second horned pig, and his movements appeared even cleaner than previously. As expected of Brother Tian, he's learning at an extremely fast pace. Xiaohua nodded her head in approval after seeing Yuan skillfully butcher the horned pigs. I'm not surprised, since my brother is a genius who learned to play nearly every instrument in the world professionally when he was only 5 years old, after all. Yuro also nodded her head, agreeing with Xiao Hua. Brother Tian can play the instrument. Xiao Hua looked at him with wide eyes. Is there something this guy can't do? Not only can he play the instrument, but he can play them flawlessly. There used to be tens of millions of people who admire. That's enough, Yuro. It's all in the past. There's no need to bring it up anymore. Yuan suddenly interrupted her with a solemn expression on his face. Oh, I am sorry, brother. I got too excited and brought up something I shouldn't have again. Yuro quickly realized her mistake and apologized to him. Although Yuan used to play the instrument because of his illness that crippled his sight, he was forced to adapt to playing the instruments while blind, and until he can no longer physically move his body. Seeing the depressing atmosphere around them, Xiaohua decided to not ask any questions for now and silently watched Yuan butcher the last horned pig. A few minutes later, once all 3 horned pigs were flawlessly butchered by Yuan, he tossed the materials into his spatial ring. I'm speechless, brother. Even though that was your first time butchering a pig, a monster, you didn't make a mess. Even your hands are clean. It's almost like you never did it. Yuro expressed her admiration for him once again. It's mostly thanks to the knife technique that I could even cut it at all, and this knife that made it much smoother, Yuan said. Here, why don't you take a look at the technique yourself? Yuan retrieved the 1,000-knife technique he bought from the store and handed it to Yuro. It's like a book, she said as she began flipping through the pages. Sometime later, Yuro finished reading the entire technique. She looked at Yuan with a tilted head and spoke. How did you learn the technique? I read the entire thing word by word and still don't have the skill. I did exactly what you just did. I read the book, Yuan said. He then turned to look at Xiao Hua and asked her, are these techniques a one-time use thing? If I already learned a technique from it, others won't be able to do the same? However, Xiaohua shook her head and said, that's not possible. Techniques are not like monster cores where they disappear after one use. As long as you can comprehend the technique, you should be able to learn it. Then why can't I learn it? Yuro asked her. That's simply because you haven't comprehended the technique. Unless you are a cultivation prodigy like Brother Tian, who can comprehend something at a mere glance, you'll need to read that book over and over again until you can comprehend it. Of course, it is also possible that you are not compatible with the technique. If that's the case, you won't learn the technique no matter how many times you read it. However, that usually happens only with the more profound techniques, not some ordinary cooking technique. Oh, then I'll try again at another time, Yuro said, sounding somewhat disappointed. Light Snivel. Yuan and the others returned to finding the spirit grass shortly later. During their journey, they encountered 2 more monsters, both at the 2nd-level spirit apprentice realm, which Yuan swiftly and casually dealt with before spending some more time butchering. 2 hours have passed since Yuan and the others began the quest, and they have just reached the area where the spirit grass was located. What does spirit grass look like? Yuan asked after they reached the location. It's like regular grass but with a blue tip, like this one. Yuro spoke as she harvested a single blade of spirit grass before showing it to Yuan. We need 3 genes of these? That's going to take forever. Yuan's eyes widened after seeing the small grass. Actually, these are much heavier than regular grass, so we don't need as much as you think. Here, see for yourself. Yuro handed him the spirit grass.
Wow.
You're right. I can actually feel some weight behind it. Yuan expressed awe. How can something so tiny and light-looking have such weight to it? Brother Tian, the most deceiving thing in the cultivation world is one's appearance. You should never judge a book by its cover or you'll regret it. Xiao Hua warned him. Yuan nodded his head before he began looking around. After spending a few minutes looking around, Yuan decided to stop using his eyes to look for the spirit grass and began to try something new. The spirit grass has a unique aura to it. If I can sense it with my cultivation, I should be able to find them even without needing to use my eyes. Yuan then began expanding his own aura until he could sense things a few meters around him.
Wow.
Even though my eyes are closed, I can somehow still see the world in my mind, and it seems even clearer than using my eyes. Yuan was amazed by this new finding. If only he could use this same technique in the real world. That way, he would still be able to see despite being blind. You have learned Divine Sense. Divine Sense. Rank, Earth. Mastery Level 1. Description: as long as one activates their Divine Sense, they will be able to see everything in a certain distance, even things that normally can't be seen with the bare eyes. And within just a few moments, Yuan was able to locate over a dozen spirit grass at once. Xiaohua looked at the expanded aura around Yuan with wide eyes. Divine Sense? Brother Tian somehow learned to use Divine Sense by himself? Even though he can only expand his Divine Sense a few meters, that's an incredible achievement for someone who's only at the Spirit Warrior realm. Xiaohua thought to herself. Normally, only cultivators at the Spirit Master realm are able to learn and use Divine Sense, yet Yuan managed to learn it when he's only in the Spirit Warrior realm. However, compared to eating monster cores and his godlike comprehension talent, it didn't shock Xiaohua too much, who was already getting used to his incomprehensible existence.
Here, Vayuro.
I found 12 spirit grass. Yuan showed Yuro the spirit grass he found using his Divine Sense.
What?
How did you find this many so quickly? I only found 2 myself. Yuro looked at the small pile of spirit grass on his hands with wide eyes. Why don't you try using your cultivation to sense the spirit grass instead of looking for them with your bare eyes? It's much easier and more efficient because they have a unique aura that distinguishes them from the rest, Yuan said to her. How do I do something like that? She raised her eyebrows in a puzzled manner. I'm not sure either. Yuan scratched his head, as it was such a natural feeling for him. Brother Tian, Divine Sense is not something anyone can use, and they must have an appropriate cultivation before they can even learn it, Xiaohua said to him. Oh, is that so? Yuan nodded. Then I will continue to look for spirit grass with my Divine Sense. Once Yuan left to look for more spirit grass, Yuro turned to look at Xiaohua and said to her, You know a lot of things despite your young age. Xiaohua has existed for longer than you think, she responded with a calm voice. Then how old are you? Yuro looked at her with wide eyes. However, Xiaohua did not respond to her, acting as though she was deaf. You can't even tell a fellow lady? Yuro insisted. One's age does not matter when you are a cultivator, Xiaohua said, avoiding the question. Yuro shook her head inwardly and sighed after seeing Xiaohua's strong reluctance. Anyway, I can't let Brother Tian do all of the work by himself. I'll also continue looking for spirit grass. Yuro returned to searching for spirit grass with her bare eyes. Half an hour later, Yuan returned to Yuro and Xiaohua with an abundant amount of spirit grass in his spatial ring. I should have around 20 genes of spirit grass in my spatial ring right now, Yuan said to her. 20 genes? That's way more than what we need, Yuro said. Yes, but if the quest is repeatable, we can complete it multiple times in a single run, Yuan said. Oh, that's quite smart, brother. Meanwhile, I have only managed to find 2 genes worth of spirit grass. Yuro sighed. Brother Tian, Xiaohua also gathered some spirit grass for you, Xiaohua said. Thank you, Xiaohua. You can keep it to yourself until we need to hand it in, Yuan said to her. She nodded. Now that we've completed the quest, let's return to the medicine store and hand in our spirit grass, Yuro said. Thus, they began making their way back to Spring City. However, on their way back, Yuan and his small group encountered another group of players that appeared to be heading in their direction. Brother Tian, there are 4 cultivators at the 5th level Spirit Apprentice realm ahead, Xiaohua said to them way before the 2 groups even met. They must be players that are doing the same quest, Yuro said. Once the 2 groups met, the other group asked them, Hello, are you guys coming from this spirit grass location? Yes, that's right. It's just a mile that way. Yuan pointed in the direction they came from. The 4 players then exchanged gazes with each other and nodded with a determined gaze in their eyes before turning to look at Yuan again. Since you know where to find more spirit grass, and it's not too far away, why don't you do us a solid favor and hand over the ones you already have to us? One of the players said to them, and the other 3 players drew their weapons. Yuan was speechless. Are they being robbed? In broad daylight? And before you get any ideas, let me warn you that there are 4 of us and only 3 of you, and one of them is a mere child.
The player said.
What should we do, brother? Yuro asked him as she grabbed his sleeves. Yuan narrowed his eyes at the 4 players and asked them a moment later. The 4 of you are players, right? So what if we are? Hurry up and give us all of your spirit grass, or do we have to take it from your corpses? Lightsnvel. Yuan ignored the 4 players and turned to ask Yuro. Can you confirm for me that if players die, they will respawn later? Yuro nodded and said, if a player dies, they won't be able to control their character for an hour, and they'll respawn in the last city they were in. Are you going to kill them? She asked him afterward. Yes, he nodded with a cold expression on his face. Xiaohua looked at him with wide eyes. He's willingly going to kill 4 cultivators? What happened to his righteous speech about not wanting to kill anyone just a few days ago? Yuan retrieved the starry abyss and approached the 4 players with a cold gaze, and he spoke in a low voice. I don't care if you want to rob us. I wouldn't have cared even if you wanted to kill me. However, threatening to kill my sister before me, you have crossed a line that you should have never crossed. The 4 players looked at Yuan's serious expression and began laughing out loud. Are you going to fight the 4 of us by yourself? Who the hell do you think you are? Stop wasting our time and die already. One of the players suddenly rushed forward and swung the sword in his grasp at Yuan with sluggish movements, looking like a complete beginner with the sword. Yuan remained calm despite the sudden attack, even looking at the player with disdain in his eyes. You call that a sword attack? Yuan casually shifted his body and barely dodged the sword, Lightsnovel. The second he dodged the player's attack, Yuan jerked his hand forward, stabbing the player in the chest with the starry abyss. The player stared at him with wide eyes filled with disbelief for a moment before falling onto the ground. You have killed your first player. You have gained the title, Player Killer. He killed our brother. Kill him and avenge our brother. The remaining 3 players immediately sprang into action after witnessing their brother being killed by Yuan, their faces filled with anger. Thousand Knife Technique. However, Yuan swung the starry abyss before any of the players could even get close to him, and before the players could even react, a black light flashes right before their necks.
Asterisk plop asterisk asterisk plop asterisk asterisk plop asterisk.
The 3 players collapsed onto the floor simultaneously a moment later with deep cuts in their necks. After killing the 4 players, Yuan stared at the corpses on the floor, feeling an indescribable feeling in his heart. I thought I wouldn't be able to kill people, but it was surprisingly easy. Yuan looked at his palms that were slightly trembling. However, he was not scared, nor was he traumatized by the experience. This is excitement. Yuan mumbled to himself in disbelief. When he fought the 4 players, he didn't see it as fighting another human. Instead, it felt no different than fighting monsters. Brother, are you okay? Yuro and Xiaohua approached him a moment later. Are you hurt anywhere? Yuro began patting him all over his body to check for injuries. Don't worry, I am not injured, he said with a reassuring smile. And then he continued, do you think I'll be punished for killing other players? I don't think so, since there are many player killers out there, but none of them have been punished for it, Yuro said to him. I see. That was your first time killing another player, right? How do you feel, brother? Yuro asked him afterward. I don't know, but one thing for sure is that I don't feel bad about it, and knowing that they don't die permanently made it much easier, he said. I won't let anyone hurt you, Yuro, no matter who they are. Thank you, brother. Yuro nodded with a bashful expression on her slightly rosy face. What should we do with their corpses? Yuan asked some time later. They'll respawn in an hour, so let's take their stuff before that happens, Yuro said as she began rummaging through their pockets. Why are you going to take their stuff? Yuan looked at her with wide eyes, as he didn't expect to see such savageness from her. Why not? You know that saying, an eye for an eye? They tried to rob us, so it's only fair that we do the same to them. And it feels no different from dismantling a monster after killing it. Sometime later, Yuro returned with a disappointed expression on her face. Besides their weapons, they only had 15 silvers and some minor recovery pills on them. She sighed, I guess it's better than nothing. Sometime later, They continued walking back to Spring City. Xiaohua, can you tell us if there are people close to us? I don't want to risk running into more people like the ones just now, Yuan said to her. Okay, she nodded. 2 hours later, they returned to Spring City and then Mr. Chong's medicine shop. Welcome back, young lady. Did you find the spirit grass? The receptionist immediately recognized her beautiful face. Yes, we even brought more than you'd requested if you don't mind.
Yuan said to him.
Oh, that's perfect. I'll pay you 10 silver more for every extra gene of spirit grass you have for me. The receptionist then placed a scale on the counter and said, Throw everything you have on here. Yuan nodded and placed her 2 genes worth of spirit grass onto the scale. Then Yuan placed his 20 genes of spirit grass into the scale. You gathered 22 genes of spirit grass in such a short amount of time? I'm amazed. The receptionist exclaimed his admiration. Wait, we still have more, Yuan said and turned to look at Xiaohua. How much did you gather? He asked her. 318 genes, she responded calmly. Huh. Everyone in the store suddenly turned to look at her with wide eyes filled with disbelief. I am sorry, young lady, but I don't think I heard you properly just now. How much spirit grass did you say you have? The receptionist cleaned his ears with his pinky finger before asking. 318 genes of spirit grass, Xiaohua repeated in a calm voice. 318 genes, that's a whole year's worth of supply. And you mean to tell me that you gathered that much in a few hours? The receptionist stared at her with clear disbelief. Xiaohua retrieved her spatial ring before dumping out a small mountain of spirit grass onto the counter, crushing the entire scale flat. The receptionist and everyone else in the store was beyond words, as most of them have never seen so much spirit grass in one place before, and even Yuan and Yuan were staring at her with wide eyes. How on earth did she gather so much spirit grass? Unless she plucked the entire location of its spirit grass, there was no way she would have obtained so much. Anyway, no matter how you obtained these spirit grass, I will pay you for them. The receptionist spoke after snapping out of his daze. 340 genes of spirit grass will be worth 3,400 silver. Converted to gold coins will be 34 gold coins. Are you okay with this? The receptionist said to them. Why, yes, that's fine. Yuan nodded. A few minutes later, after the receptionist accepted the spirit grass, he handed 34 gold coins to Yuan. You have completed the quest, gathering spirit chi. You have been rewarded with 34 gold coins. Congratulations on completing your first quest, Yuan said to her with a smile on his face. And you can keep the gold for yourself. Thank you, brother. This is mostly due to you and Xiaohua, Yuan said. After leaving the medicine store, Yuan asked Yuan, what do you want to do now? After seeing how you had defeated those players with such ease, I have realized just how important it is to have a skill, so I want to use the money we just earned to buy some techniques. Yuan nodded and said, then let's find a store that sells some techniques that can be used with a fan. I know just the place, Yuan said, and she began leading Yuan and Xiaohua through the city again. About half an hour later, they reached this ordinary-looking building that gave the atmosphere of a library from the outside. Myriad of techniques, huh? Yuan read the sign above the door with a curious gaze. According to many players on the internet, one has a chance to obtain a free technique if they have perfect compatibility with it. Furthermore, this place sells the cheapest techniques in the entire city. Yuan said as she has had her eyes set on this place ever since she learned of it. Let's head inside, Yuan said. Once they entered the building, they were baffled by the luxurious interior of the building that looked the complete opposite of the outside appearance, feeling like they'd entered some exalted individual's expensive mansion instead. They were then greeted by a beautiful young lady who was wearing what appeared to be disciple robes. Welcome to Myriad of Techniques. Please place your hands on this crystal ball, as it will judge your qualifications. The young disciple said to them at the doorstep. Qualifications? Why must we qualify before we can buy techniques? Yuan asked her, as he couldn't comprehend the meaning behind their actions. We have 3 floors in this building with different quality and ranks of technique on each floor. Every guest will automatically have access to the first floor, but if they wish to buy techniques on the second or third floor, They must pass a simple test, she explained to him. I see. You can go first, Yuan said to her. She nodded her head before placing her hand on the crystal ball provided by the disciple. A few seconds later, the clear crystal ball began glowing a beautiful golden light. When the beautiful young lady saw this, her eyes widened with surprise, and she spoke when the light disappeared shortly later. You are quite the lucky one, young girl. Huh? What do you mean? Yuan asked her. Light snivel. The divine crystal of heavenly fortune just measured your fortune and fate, and you are apparently deeply connected to someone with a heavenly destiny, said the female disciple, Light's novel. I'm sorry, but I still don't understand. Yuan spoke with an apologetic smile on her face. It's okay, because I don't understand it either, and I am only telling you what my master told me to say. The female disciple said with a straight face. Your master? Yuan looked around, but there was nobody else there. My master is on the 3rd floor, and he is speaking to me using his divine sense. Anyway, you are qualified to buy techniques on the 2nd floor. The disciple said to Yuan before turning to look at Xiaohua, and continued. You are next. Xiaohua did not immediately place her hands on the crystal ball and stared at the female disciple with narrowed eyes, seemingly in a deep ponder. Is something the matter? Yuan asked her. No, Xiaohua is fine, she quickly responded before placing her small hands on the crystal ball. The divine crystal of heavenly fortune glowed a similar golden color a few seconds later, perhaps even a little brighter than Yuan's result, but there was a hint of black within the center of the light. The female disciple spoke after the light disappeared. Just like the previous young lady, you are deeply involved with someone with a heavenly destiny, however, you also. When the female disciple noticed the subtle killing intent in Xiaohua's eyes, she immediately stopped speaking with a mysterious smile on her face. After a moment of silence, the female disciple turned to look at Yuan and continued as though Xiaohua did not exist. It is very rare for someone to have connections to someone with a heavenly destiny, much less 2 of them at once. Although it may not seem like it, my heart is beating in anticipation for your results, young man. Heavenly destiny. You have mentioned this word a few times now, but what exactly does that mean? Yuan asked her. Well, to put it in simpler terms, they are people who are destined to create massive waves that will greatly affect the world one way or another. There are multiple ranks of destiny, like minor destiny that will only affect the lower realms and major destiny that will affect the higher realms, and the highest level of destiny is the heavenly destiny. Only powerful individuals that will affect every realm under the heavens will bear such a destiny. The female disciple explained to him. Is that so? Yuan nodded. While he understood the concept behind it, he didn't understand the real meaning behind having such a destiny. So both Yuan and Xiaohua will be involved with someone like that, huh? I wonder who this person is. Yuan pondered to himself as he placed his hands on the divine crystal of heavenly fortune. The moment Yuan touched the divine crystal of heavenly fortune, the crystal ball trembled violently before exploding into many pieces. Ah! The female disciple cried out in a startled voice when the divine crystal of heavenly fortune suddenly exploded. Hey, are you okay? What happened just now? Yuan asked her in a surprised voice. I am not injured, but the divine crystal of heavenly fortune. The female disciple looked at the shattered crystal with a terrified look on her face, as she has never experienced something like this before. And master, the divine crystal of heavenly fortune, it exploded. The female disciple lifted her head towards the ceiling and spoke to the empty air. A moment later, the female disciple spoke again, and with a dazed expression on her face. Really? You want me to bring him to you? I understand. The female disciple nodded before looking at Yuan again. My master would like to speak with you. Hearing her words, Yuan rubbed his eyes and sighed in a depressed voice. I am going to have to pay for destroying the divine crystal of heavenly fortune, aren't I? And no, that's not it. It wasn't your fault that the divine crystal of heavenly fortune exploded, I think. Anyway, I don't know why, but my master would like to speak with you. The female disciple said to him. Can we go with him? Yuan suddenly asked. I'm sorry, but my master only asked for his presence. She responded with an apologetic smile. However, Xiaohua grabbed Yuan's sleeves with a stern look on her face. Seeing this, the female disciple said with a smile on her face, "You can relax, little girl. We won't do anything to him." But alas, Xiaohua did not move a muscle and continued to grab onto Yuan's sleeves. "It's okay, Xiaohua. I want you to protect Yu in my stead when I am gone," Yuan said to her. "Make sure nobody bullies her, okay?" "Okay." Xiaohua eventually released his sleeves and watched Yuan disappear with the female disciple shortly later. "Are you okay, Xiaohua? You have been acting weirdly ever since we entered this building," Yu asked her. "Xiaohua is fine," she said to her, and she continued a moment later. "But that girl, she's a very powerful cultivator that shouldn't exist in this lower heaven."
Huh? What do you mean by that?
Yu asked Xiaohua, as she was unfamiliar with such terms. "That girl with the disciple robes just now is a cultivator at the Spirit King realm, and unless she also has a legacy to fulfill, she's an existence that shouldn't be in this world, the lower heaven," Xiaohua explained to her. "Spirit King, lower heavens." Yu shook her head, still confused about what Xiaohua was trying to say. "Anyway, let's look around the first floor before we go to the second floor," Yu said. Xiaohua nodded and followed Yu, as she didn't need to learn any new techniques for herself. Meanwhile, Yuan and the female disciple had just reached the second floor. "What is your name, young man?" "I am called Zhu Yuan," said the female disciple. "Yu Tian," he responded. "Oh, that's a nice name," she nodded with a smile on her face. "Anyway, before you meet my master, you should know a few things about him. First and foremost, my master is a very outgoing individual, but do not feel too comfortable around him, and most importantly, do not show any sign of disrespect, or else you will dearly regret it." "I don't think I will have a problem with that," Yuan said, as he wouldn't disrespect anyone without a good reason. "Good. Then the next thing you should know about my master is that he has very keen eyes for everything, so do not lie to him because he will know," Zhu Yuan continued. "If you don't feel comfortable with answering his questions, you should just remain silent, as that is better than being a liar." "Is he going to question me a lot?" Yuan asked. "I don't know," she casually shrugged. "Is that so?" After navigating around the second floor for a few minutes, they reached the staircase for the third floor. However, there were 2 guards standing by the stair with a semi-transparent barrier that blocked their access to the third floor. "Master wants to speak with him," Zhu Yuan said to the guards.
"What?"
"The master is willing to meet with a stranger." The guards looked at Yuan with wide eyes, wondering what was so special about him. "Since it's the master's request, go ahead." One of the guards then snapped his fingers, and the barrier blocking their path began disappearing. A moment later, they were free to enter the third floor. "This is the third floor?" Yuan expressed surprise after seeing the third floor, which was only large enough to fit 2 5-meter-long bookshelves on each side and surprisingly empty, as there were barely books on these bookshelves, enough to be counted with one's hands. "My master is waiting for you at the other side of that door." Zhu Yuan pointed to the door at the end of the small room that emitted a profound feeling. Yuan swallowed nervously before walking towards the door that gave him the chills. He then opened the door, and to his surprise, there was only darkness behind this door. "Ah, I am supposed to enter this." Yuan turned around to look at Zhu Yuan, who nodded with a smile on her face. "Don't worry, it's only a portal that will take you to my master, who is in a place so far away that the only way you can meet him is through teleportation." Yuan narrowed his eyes, feeling a bit uncomfortable about the weird atmosphere and the whole situation. What if they're trying to trick him just like what happened at the demonic spider's silent cave? However, as Yuan was wondering whether to trust them, an ancient voice resounded in his head. "It isn't polite to make the seniors wait so long, young man." And right as the voice ended in his head, a powerful force appeared from beyond the door, sucking him inside the darkness.
"Ash!"
Yuan screamed out loud as his body was tossed into the darkness, feeling like he was falling constantly through an endless hole. The falling sensation lasted for a good minute before the darkness suddenly vanished, replaced by a bright light. Yuan looked around, and to his surprise, he was surrounded by clouds, and when he looked down, he saw a vast world. one that stretched to the horizons. Lights fell. You have discovered? What the heck? Where am I? What happened to the technique store? Yuan exclaimed in a shocked voice as he continued falling from the sky. I'm going to die. I am definitely going to die if I fall from this height. Yuan cried out loud. Ha ha ha. Calm down, young man from another world. You won't die. A similar voice suddenly resounded beside Yuan, causing him to turn around. You are Light's novel. Yuan's eyes widened with shock when he saw a healthy-looking old man with long white hair and a long beard falling beside him. The old man suddenly waved his sleeves, and as though gravity had stopped working, their body immediately stopped falling. Come with me. The old man began flying away, and Yuan could feel an invisible force pulling him along. A few minutes later, they landed on this small floating island that had a beautiful jade table in the center and 2 jade chairs beside it. Once they landed, the old man immediately walked to one of the chairs and sat down before taking out a teapot and 2 teacups. Sit down, young friend. The old man gestured to him in a friendly manner. Although Yuan was still trying to make sense of the situation, he sat down as instructed. Try this. The old man handed him one of the teacups. Tea, thank you. Yuan accepted the teacup without thinking and looked at the transparent liquid in the cup. If he hadn't seen the ripple on the surface, he would have mistaken it as an empty teacup. The old man then pulled the teacup towards his own lips before chugging the cup of liquid in an instant. Yuan followed the old man's actions and drank the transparent liquid. Wow. Yuan could feel a refreshing feeling flow down his throat before it expanded in his stomach, and then the rest of his body, feeling almost like an explosion had occurred within his body. You consumed a translucent dew of flawlessness. Impurities will now be cleansed from your body. A few seconds after consuming the translucent liquid, sticky black substances could be seen oozing from every pore on Yuan's body, filling the place with an intense smell that resembled the smell of rotten eggs and many other unpleasant smells.
Whoa.
What is happening to me? Yuan stood up in a panic after seeing this scene. Your body is currently discharging the impurities within your body. One must reach the Spirit Grandmaster realm before they can start cleaning the impurities within their body, but the translucent dew of flawlessness will help you achieve that regardless of your cultivation, and it will continue to protect your body from collecting any more impurities in the future, so that you don't have to waste time manually discharging the impurities within your body after every breakthrough. The old man explained to him in a calm voice. The translucent dew of flawlessness is a rare treasure that will be very beneficial to you and your future cultivation. I don't really understand it, but thank you for giving me such a treasure, senior. Yuan bowed to him with his body nearly covered in impurities. No need to thank me, as this is but a small token for making you come all the way to this place. The old man smiled. A few minutes later, once Yuan discharged every drop of impurity that was contaminating his body, the old man waved his sleeves, creating a powerful wind that blew away the impurities and the awful smell. You have cleaned every drop of impurity within your body, obtaining a refined body. Description: having an untainted body, your cultivation speed will increase significantly as long as you keep your body clear of impurities. How do you feel, young man? The old man asked him afterward. I don't know how I should describe this refreshing feeling. It feels almost like I have been reborn, Yuan said while staring at his own palms, feeling incredibly light and energetic, even powerful. Rebirth, huh? That's a good way to describe it. The old man nodded before pointing at the seat. Once Yuan was seated again, the old man spoke. I know you are wondering why I brought you to this place and where we are, so let's get that out of the way first. First of all, this place is not a location from where you came from, the lower heaven, or anywhere in the world for that matter. It is its own world, another dimension, so to speak, hence why I was able to bring you here without much trouble. Now, as for why I brought you to this place, it's simply because I want to know more about you, young man who destroyed the divine crystal of heavenly fortune with his destiny. Huh. Yuan looked at the old man with wide eyes. So, he really was responsible for destroying that treasure. However, before we continue, why don't we introduce ourselves? The old man spoke, and he continued, Most people address me as Master Bai, but you can just call me Senior Bai. Yuan nodded and said, "My real name is Yutian, but I am also known as Yuan." Yutian, huh? Senior Bai nodded his head before continuing. Now then, continuing with the matter. The reason why the divine crystal of heavenly fortune exploded after trying to read your fortune is simply because it could not read your destiny, hence why it exploded. Huh? Yuan looked at him with his eyebrows raised in a puzzled manner.
What does he mean by that?
The divine crystal of heavenly fortune is a very powerful treasure that can read one's fortune and destiny, and depending on the importance of their destiny, they are given a rating. There are countless geniuses in this world who have the ability to change or create history, but very few of them will be given a minor destiny. Then we have the major destiny, geniuses who will affect the heavens to a certain extent. Someone with a major destiny will appear once every 10,000 years. Senior Bai explained to him the functions of the treasure he destroyed. As for the final rating, heavenly destiny, there have been only 13 people who were given such a destiny ever since the ancient times, and every single one of these individuals had greatly affected the world so much that they were given their own era. However, not many people know this, but there is actually another rating beside the three I just explained, and there is no name for such a destiny, hence why I just call it the unknown destiny. The unknown destiny is the only destiny the divine crystal of heavenly fortune cannot read or sometimes mistake as a heavenly destiny, and in the cases where the divine crystal of heavenly fortune cannot read a destiny, it will explode. After the lengthy explanation, Senior Bai gave Yuan a moment to digest the information before continuing. Ever since the ancient times. No, ever since the first cultivator learned to cultivate, there have only been 2 other individuals other than yourself that have had an unknown destiny, and I want to know what kind of person you are as the 3rd person to have an unknown destiny, hence why I brought you here. I see, but what do you want to know about me? I have lived an insignificant life for the majority of my life, so I don't think you'll find anything interesting about me, Yuan said to him. Your life experiences don't matter to me. What I want to know is your ambitions. Why you decided to become a cultivator, and what keeps you on the cultivation path, Senior Bai said to him. My ambitions? Yuan lifted his eyebrows before speaking in a calm voice. Honestly, I don't have any ambitions, and I only want to enjoy this beautiful world with my little sister and hopefully make some friends. You have no ambitions? That's quite hard to believe, as every cultivator has a dream. Despite expressing his doubt, Senior Bai was unable to sense any lies from Yuan's clear gaze. Although I may not have any ambitions, I do have a dream. However, this dream is not something one can achieve just by working hard for it, Yuan said with a bitter smile on his face. Ho, do you mind clarifying? Senior Bai asked him with his interest piqued. In the cultivation world, there is almost no dream that cannot be attained through hard work. What about a person who is born without legs and dreams of walking? What about a blind man dreams of seeing again? Yuan asked him, do you think those kinds of dreams could be achieved? Ha ha ha. Senior Bai suddenly laughed out loud before speaking, and here I was wondering what you were going to say. So what if one is born without legs? They can simply grow some with the help of treasures. The same goes for blind people. I know over a dozen medicines and treasures that can cure blindness. Yuan was speechless. They can do that in the cultivation world? However, even if that was the case, this was only a game, and once he logs off, this so-called cultivation world will cease to exist. Anyway, what about becoming a cultivator? What drove you to walk the cultivation path? Senior Bai then asked him. Well, it kind of happened by chance. Yuan spoke before briefly recalling how he became a cultivator. Chance? Nonsense. You are someone with an unknown destiny. Everything that happened to you, or will happen to you in the future, everyone that you have met or will meet in the future, it was predetermined by fate before you were even born. Senior Bai said before continuing. Then why do you continue to cultivate? If you didn't choose this path, why don't you quit? Because I have learned from a friend that strength means everything in this world, and without strength, I could lose everything that's important to me, hence why I continue to cultivate and continue to grow stronger, as I wish to explore this world with those who are dear to me without losing them. Cultivating to protect those important to you, huh? Despite hearing similar words from cultivators countless times throughout my life, I can only respect one's desire to protect their loved ones. And your friend is right. The cultivation world is an unforgiving world that preys on the weak and rewards the strong. If you wish to explore this world, you must have enough power. Senior Bai spoke as he profoundly caressed his long white beard. After a moment of silence, Senior Bai said, I have a firm understanding of your character now, but people can always change, and I can only hope that you do not change too much. By the way, if you don't mind me asking, do you have a unique physique? I can feel a profound feeling from your body, but I have never felt such a feeling before. Senior Bai suddenly asked, My physique? I have something called the heaven-refining physique, he casually responded. Heaven-refining physique? Senior Bai suddenly cried out loud as he stood up with a shocked expression on his face. Yuan looked at Senior Bai with wide eyes, as he didn't expect such an intense reaction. After a long moment of silence, Senior Bai cleared his throat before sitting back down. I see. So, you are the person she met. What do you mean, Senior Bai? Yuan asked with his head tilted in a puzzled manner. And nothing. I was just talking to myself, Senior Bai quickly said with an awkward smile on his face. Anyway, I don't dare to keep you in this place any longer, little friend. If fate allows it, we shall meet each other again. Almost as though he was in a hurry, Senior Bai waved his sleeves, enveloping Yuan with his spiritual energy before sending Yuan flying towards the heavens. A few moments later, Yuan was surrounded by darkness again, but he was falling in the opposite direction this time around. After sending Yuan back to the portal, Senior Bai stared at the sky with a dazed look on his face. Light's novel. So his name was Yuan, huh? To think I'd meet the genius with the godly physique that woman met in this place, as expected of someone with an unknown destiny. I would have given him a few techniques and some treasures to help out his journey, but alas. Lightsvol Omicron. After standing in the same spot for an unknown amount of time, Senior Bai sighed in an annoyed tone. I should probably let her know about our meeting, or she'll think I am trying to steal him from her, or something. Welcome back, Yuan. Zhu Yuan greeted him after he returned to the skill store. How was your meeting with my master? I don't know how I should describe it, he said with a weird smile on his face. Everything just happened so fast. Then what did you two talk about? She then asked. He asked me about my dreams, and why I decided to be a cultivator. That's it. Zhu Yuan looked at him with raised eyebrows. Yes, he said. Zhu Yuan turned silent. Why would her master call him for something casual like that? She couldn't comprehend it. Anyway, since you have already spoken with my master, I'll leave you alone to look for skills now. You are allowed to buy a technique from any floor, she said to him a moment later. I understand. Since I am already here, and there doesn't seem to be much technique up here, I'll look around this floor first before I reunite with the others. Zhu Yuan nodded and left him alone on the third floor shortly later. Yuan began looking around the third floor, but with only 2 bookshelves and a dozen techniques, it didn't take long for Yuan to see everything on the third floor. And out of the dozen techniques on the third floor, there was only one technique that he could learn, as it was related to the sword. Demon Sealing Strike. What a powerful sounding technique. Yuan mumbled the name of the technique with a feeling of awe. He then opened the technique and began looking through it. A few minutes after Yuan began reading the technique, he unknowingly entered a trance, which allowed him to indulge in the technique as though he was in his own world. After an unknown amount of time had passed, a notification appeared before him. You have learned Demon Sealing Strike. Demon Sealing Strike. Rank, Heaven. Mastery Level 1. Description: consumes 1 million chi. Must wield a sword to activate. An ancient sword technique used to seal demons. Oh no. I learned the technique, without paying for it again. Yuan facepalmed himself afterward. And it's even a heaven-ranked technique. I hope I can afford it with my remaining gold, or I am going to have to borrow the difference from Xiaohua.
He sighed.
Meanwhile, above the sky, another announcement appeared. Player Yuan has become the world's first player to have learned a heaven-ranked skill. Congratulations! After he'd accidentally learned the heaven-grade technique from the third floor, Yuan walked downstairs with a guilty expression on his face. What's the matter? You don't look so good. The guards noticed his expression and decided to speak to him, wondering if something unpleasant had happened during his meeting with their master. I was just wondering how much this technique would cost if I were to buy it. Yuan showed them the demon sealing technique. The demon sealing technique, huh? That's one of the rarest and more powerful techniques one can find in this store, and it's even a heaven-grade technique, so it'll be quite costly. Yuan immediately began sweating profusely after hearing the guard's words. If I recall correctly, this technique should be worth around 300 million gold coins. 300 million gold coins? Yuan cried out loud, nearly collapsing from fright. If the demon sealing technique is really worth 300 million gold coins, he wouldn't be able to buy this technique even if he'd borrowed all of Xiaohua's money, and it would require him to sell about 10 heaven-grade treasures to have enough money for the purchase. 300 million gold coins, it's impossible. I cannot pay for this. Yuan thought to himself. While it pains him to even think about it, he'll have to skip this purchase even if it is considered theft that he learned the technique without paying for it. I'm sorry, Yuro. Even though it was by accident and it's only a game, your brother has committed a crime and is now a criminal. He sighed inwardly. Hey, are you sure you're okay? The guards asked him again, as they were confident that something was bothering him. No, I'm fine, really. Yuan sighed as he turned around and began walking back upstairs. Where are you going, fellow Taoist? The guard asked. To return this technique, I cannot afford it, he responded in a pitiful voice. The guards exchanged looks with each other before laughing out loud. Ha ha ha. Is that what you were worried about? Then you don't have to worry, since you don't have to pay for that technique.
What?
Yuan immediately stopped walking to look at the guards with his eyes wide with disbelief. What do you mean I don't have to pay for it? He asked them. I guess our senior sister forgot to tell you about this, but those who qualified to step onto the 3rd floor are allowed to take one cultivation technique for free. Are you serious? Yuan looked at them with a doubtful gaze. Who in their right mind would give away something worth 300 million gold coins for free? Why would we lie to you? If you don't believe us, you can ask our senior sister or whoever is at the reception, said one of the guards. Though, they'll just tell you the same thing. Thank God. Yuan suddenly released a deep sigh of relief, feeling like he'd narrowly escaped punishment after doing something bad. Even though it's for free, you need to make sure to check it out at the reception. The guards then warned him. I will. Thank you. Yuan left the place shortly later to look for Yuro and Xiaohua. How large is this place? Yuan was at loss for words after realizing just how much larger the 1st and 2nd floor was compared to the 3rd floor. And after walking around for a solid half an hour, Yuan was finally able to reunite with Yuro and Xiaohua on the 2nd floor. Brother, you're back. Yuro said to him. Sorry for leaving you two like that, he said. Brother Tian, are you okay? Xiaohua was looking at him with her eyes as wide as saucers. Yuan had only been gone for an hour at most, yet there was something vastly different about him. HM? Yes, I am. Why are you asking? There's something different about you,
she said.
Lightsnivel. Oh, that's because I just removed all of the impurities in my body, he said with an innocent smile on his face. You what? Xiaohua exclaimed. Cultivators can only start discharging the impurities within their body after entering the Spirit Grandmaster realm, and it usually requires years of effort before they can remove all of the purities within their body. However, Yuan had only been gone for an hour, and he somehow managed to remove all of the impurities within his body. There is only one treasure in this world that she knows of that could possibly achieve such a miracle, the translucent dew of flawlessness, Light's novel. However, such a treasure should not exist in the lower heavens. Hell, the translucent dew of flawlessness is considered a peerless treasure even in the higher realms, as it not only removes all impurities within one's body, but it will also prevent their body from building up more impurities in the future, allowing one to save a magnitude of time in their life since they no longer need to manually remove their impurities anymore, which takes time and effort that could be used towards cultivating instead. Just who did Brother Yuan meet? Xiaohua asked him. Some senior surnamed Bai, he said. Was he the one who gave you the translucent dew of flawlessness? Yes. He said it was a small token for taking up my time. Yuan nodded. Xiao Hua was speechless. Just who in the world would be rich enough to give away such a valuable treasure for such a reason? Anyway, how has your search been going? Did you find any techniques that suit your taste? Yuan asked Yuro sometime later. Well, although there are not many skills that can be used with a fan, I have managed to find a skill that could be useful. Yuro showed him the scroll she had in her hand. Wind blades? A mortal rank technique that summons wind blades that cut foes from a distance. Yuan looked at the title and description, not daring to read the content inside, fearing that he might accidentally learn it. This way, once I get my own servant, I'll be able to support it from a distance without being in the danger zone. Yuro said to him. I see this technique is really fitting for you, Yuan said as he handed the technique back to her. What about you, brother? Did you find a technique yet? Yuro then asked him. Yeah, I did. It's a sword technique, he said. What about you, Xiaohua? You have been following me the entire time, so you didn't get any chance to look around. Yuro turned to look at her. Xiaohua doesn't need any new techniques. She shook her head. I see. Then let's pay for our techniques and leave this place. Are you sure you only want one technique? I think it'll be better if you have a few more, Yuan said to Yuro. Are you forgetting something, brother? Yuro said to him with a slight frown on her face. What am I forgetting? He raised an eyebrow. Yuro continued. You may be able to learn techniques very quickly, but I don't have your talent, so it'll take me days, even weeks to even learn a single technique. What am I going to do with a bunch of techniques that I don't have the time to learn? And you have already spent enough money on me. I can't let you spoil me too much, or I'll really start feeling guilty about it. I understand, Yuan said. Sometime later, they approached the cashier to pay for their techniques. Thank you for visiting our myriad of techniques. How may I help you today? A young man greeted them from behind the counter. Yes, I would like to purchase these techniques. Yuan placed his demon sealing technique and Yuro's wind blade onto the table. Yes, right away. The young man picked up Yuro's technique first and said, This will cost 200,000 gold coins. 200,000 gold coins. Why is it so expensive? It's only a mortal rank technique. Yuro exclaimed. Even Yuan was shocked by this unexpected price. Why is this technique so expensive compared to the techniques he'd brought? I don't know what to tell you, young lady. Martial techniques such as this wind blade are very rare and powerful and usually worth this much, and it's a technique from the second floor. In fact, our myriad of techniques is very affordable and cheap when compared to most stores out there with our pricing. If you went to another store, they would probably charge around 300,000 gold coins for this technique. Though, if you want something cheaper, there are many techniques that cost less than 1,000 gold coins on the first floor, with some costing even less than 100 gold coins. No way. Yuro sighed before turning to look at Yuan. It's okay, brother. I'll just look for something cheaper on the first floor. However, Yuan said, It's okay, Yuro. If you want this technique, I'll buy it for you. And before you say anything to me, I already know what you're going to say, but I won't change my mind. So just keep quiet and nod your head. After hearing his words, Yuro, who was about to persuade him, slowly nodded her head with a dazed look on her face. After listening to the siblings' conversation, the young man behind the counter went to pick up the technique Yuan had picked. However, when he saw the name of this technique, his eyes widened with shock, and he turned to look at Yuan with deep respect in his eyes. The Demon Sealing Technique. This is a technique from the third floor, and it's even the most powerful one. The young man looked at Yuan with a feeling of deep admiration in his gaze, as only the top geniuses with at least a major destiny are qualified to step onto the third floor. However, while the demon sealing technique is an extremely powerful technique that can seal even the strongest of demons with a single move, it is also extremely hard to learn, and it will take even top geniuses many years to even grasp the surface of this technique, hence why most people avoid it. This technique will be free of charge, esteemed guest. The young man said to Yuan with a smile on his face. What? Free of charge? Yuro exclaimed with disbelief on her face. How come she has to pay 200,000 gold coins for her technique, whilst Yuan won't be charged even a single coin? That's outrageous. Yes, one can receive a technique of their choice for free if they qualified to enter the third floor. Yuan explained to her why he didn't need to pay. Unfair. Yu sighed. Sometime later, Yuan paid the young man 200,000 gold coins for Wind Blade, leaving only a little over 200,000 gold coins for himself. If I keep spending money at this rate, my wallet won't last, and I'll run out of money before Yu returns to school. Yuan cried inwardly. However, no matter how much it might pain his heart or wallet, he won't be humble when it comes to helping Yu. Thank you for your purchase, esteemed guests. The young man handed the techniques back to Yuan, who then handed the wind blade to Yu. Thank you, brother. Yu accepted the wind blade with an ecstatic expression on her face. Sometime later, they left the myriad of techniques. Although I won't be here for long, I hope to see you again in the future, Daoist Yu Tian, Zhu Yueying said to him at the entrance. Yes, thank you for everything, too. Yuan nodded at her. After leaving the myriad of techniques, Yuan asked Yu, what should we do now? It's getting late, brother. And it's almost time for dinner, so we'll stop here for today. Okay, I will see you on the other side, Yuan said. Yu logged off a few seconds later. We'll be back tomorrow, Xiaohua. Xiaohua nodded and disappeared into his necklace. Yuan also logged off shortly later. What the heck? Yuan immediately frowned after logging off, as a strong smell that resembled rotten eggs suddenly assaulted his nose. What's this smell? It smells like shit. Yuan felt like puking, but then he realized something. Wait a second, this smell. I have smelled this awful smell before. Yuan suddenly recalled the impurities his body had discharged. However, that only made him more confused. Why would he be smelling something that he'd experienced in the game? A moment later, the door opened, and Yu walked into his room. Brother, here I am. Aw, brother. Are you okay? Yu suddenly shrieked in a terrified voice shortly after entering his room. What happened, Yu? Yuan was startled by her shouting. Why does this room smell so awful, and what are those black gunks sticking to your body? Yu exclaimed. Lightsvol, Omicron B black gunks. Yuan immediately turned speechless after hearing her words. Although he couldn't see his own body, in Yu's eyes, his body was pretty much submerged in this black gunk, looking like someone had poured a bucket of waste on him. Please wait for a minute, brother. I will be right back. Yu immediately ran back outside to look for the servants. Meanwhile, Yuan was pondering with a serious frown on his face. Black gunk. Impurities? No, that shouldn't be possible. Why would my real body discharge impurities when it happened in the game? But this awful smell is exactly like the impurities in the game. Yuan pondered and pondered, but he was unable to find an explanation for this phenomenon. What if what happens in the game also affects the real world? Yuan mumbled in a low voice before turning silent again to Light's novel. A moment later, he laughed. Ha ha ha. What nonsense am I thinking? There's no way that's possible. If that was the case, wouldn't I also be able to cultivate in the real world? After laughing for a few seconds, Yuan suddenly stopped laughing and mumbled to him. Well, it won't hurt to try. Yuan took a few deep breaths as he would before cultivation, and he tried to recall the technique Heaven's secret art. A moment later, almost as though it was embedded inside his memories, the scripture appeared inside his head. However, just because he can remember the contents of the technique does not actually mean he'll be able to use it. A few more moments later, Yuan took another deep breath before he started reciting the cultivation technique, consuming heaven technique, as though he was cultivating in the game. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Ouch! Yuan suddenly cried out loud after feeling sharp pain appear all over his body, feeling as though he was being stabbed by needles everywhere, which quickly forced him to stop cultivating. What was that? Yuan mumbled in a dazed voice, as he wasn't expecting anything to happen. However, to his surprise, his body actually had a reaction when he tried to cultivate. Even though it was unpleasant and very painful, it is still a reaction nonetheless. And wanting to confirm that it was not just his imaginations, Yuan tried to cultivate again. A few seconds later, the same pain occurred within his body.
Ah,
It hurt. It really hurts. Ha ha ha. It actually hurts. I can actually feel something. Yuan laughed loudly, as it has been a long time since he had felt any profound sensation from his body ever since it became numb and crippled. Sometime later, Yuro returned to his room with a wheelchair and some servants. Cough, cough. The servants were caught off guard by the intense smell and began coughing, feeling like they were being choked by the stench. Brother, let's get you out of that bed and clean those black gunk off your body. I have also called for a doctor who will be here shortly to look at your body. Yuro said to him as she pulled his body from the sticky impurities with effort and while ignoring the smell that was assaulting her nose. Once Yuan was seated in the wheelchair, Yuro said to the servants, I want this place cleaned up by tomorrow morning. However, keep some of that black gunk for the doctor to examine later. Yes, young lady. The servants bowed to her with respect, not daring to utter a single complaint in her presence. After Yuro left the room with Yuan, the servants immediately began to curse under their breaths. What the heck? Why do we have to clean after that cripple? What even are these black gunks? It's all sticky and nasty, not to mention its horrendous smell. This is probably caused by the young master's condition. I have never seen anything like this before, but I won't be surprised he dies within the next few days. Humph. The faster he passes, the better. I feel bad for the young lady, who wasted so many hours of her life tending to him only for him to die like that. While the servants started cleaning the stinky room and the dirty bed, Yuro entered the bathroom with Yuan. After taking off Yuan's clothes, Yuro used the shower head to rinse the impurities off his body. Once that was done, she began scrubbing his body that was still sitting on the wheelchair with some fragrant body wash. However, because the stench from the impurities was quite strong, Yuro had to wash and rinse his body 3 times before the rotten smell could fully disappear. I'm sorry, Yuro. Yuan sighed. What are you saying now? I've been washing your body like this once a week for years now. This is not much different except for the smell. Yuro said to him, and she continued, I can only hope that it's nothing serious and the doctor can explain what had caused that black gunk to appear. It's sticky and oily like wet slime, but I have never seen anything like this before. Me too, Yuan said. While he has an idea of what the black gunks are and why it appeared, he didn't dare to say it to her without confirmation, as he'd only sound crazy for saying such a thing. A few minutes later, after rinsing Yuan's body for the 4th time, Yuro said, Give me a moment to rinse myself off. Sometime later, once Yuro cleaned the impurities that were sticking to her body, she pulled Yuan's light body off the wheelchair and carried him into the massive bathtub that was right beside them before sitting in the bathtub with him. How do you feel right now, brother? Does it hurt anywhere? While there are no injuries on your body, I am still worried about your condition. Yuro asked him while hugging his back from behind. No, I am perfectly fine, he quickly responded. HAA. When I first saw you submerged in that black gunk, I was nearly scared to death, thinking that something terrible might have happened to you. She sighed in relief afterward. However, she still wasn't free of worries, as she still needed to know why his body discharged that black gunk. After sitting in the large bathtub for a few minutes, Yuro suddenly noticed something different about Yuan's body, and she decided to ask, Is it just me, or did you get fatter, brother?
what?
Have you been feeding me more soup than usual? Yuan responded in a puzzled voice. No, I measure everything I cook, and I don't recall increasing the size of your meals. However, your body is clearly fatter than before, and it's not as bony. Yuro said as she looked at his bare body with a wondering look. Are you sure you aren't imagining things? I cannot imagine why I would suddenly grow fatter. It's not as if I had been eating more. Yuan suddenly stopped talking midway through a sentence, as he realized something. Although he hasn't been fed more by Yuro, his meals have indeed increased recently, and by a fair amount. Impossible. Could it be caused by my food consumption in the game? Yuan thought to himself, and his suspicions grew stronger. Well, as long as you don't grow to the point where I can no longer carry you, it should be fine, but I'll still ask the doctor about it later, Yuro said. 10 minutes later, a servant knocked on the bathroom door and said from the outside, "Young lady, Dr. Wang is here." "Okay, let's get out now, brother." Yu tightly embraced his body from behind before standing up, pulling him with her. A few moments later, she placed him on a specially made table that was located right beside the bathtub before pressing a few buttons on the table. Soon, warm wind began blowing from the sides of the table, quickly drying Yuan's body. In the meantime, Yu dried her own body with a towel and wore a clean set of pajamas. Once she was fully clothed, she helped Yuan with his clothes next. After placing Yuan back on the wheelchair, Yu led him outside and into another room, where an old man with grayish hair and a long beard was waiting. "Thank you for coming here despite it being so late, Dr. Wang." Yu bowed to him. "Don't even mention it. Even if it was past midnight and I am already asleep, I would immediately come here if summoned." Dr. Wang laughed as he stood up and walked to them. "So, what happened? You sounded pretty frantic on the phone, so I thought something must have happened to the young master. But he seems perfectly fine," Dr. Wang said after looking at Yuan's condition with his bare eyes. "In fact, he looks even healthier than my last visit." "Well, you see," Yu proceeded to explain the situation, telling Dr. Wang about the black gunks that smelled like rotten eggs and Yuan getting fatter somehow when he has only been getting lighter throughout the years. "Black gunks that smell like rotten eggs? Interesting." Dr. Wang closed his eyes to ponder. After a moment of silence, he spoke. "I have only heard of such situations in ancient medicine books, but have never seen it personally. Do you have a sample of the black gunks that I can look at?"
Yes.
"I will be right back," Yu said as she rushed back to Yuan's room for the sample. Once Yu left the room, Dr. Wang looked at Yuan with a pitiful gaze. Out of the tens of thousands of patients he treated before, Yuan's condition was one of a kind. While he has seen patients with similar conditions, they were mostly caused by accidents or due to natural-born illnesses. Yuan, however, is neither sick nor injured. At least not a single doctor from around the world was able to find anything wrong with his body after many years of effort. Even Dr. Wang himself, who is recognized as one of the best doctors in the world, cannot find the source of Yuan's problems and was baffled by this phenomenon. "Young master, have you felt any pain or uncomfortable feeling within your body lately?" Dr. Wang asked Yuan sometime later. "No," Yuan said, not telling Dr. Wang about the pain he'd felt when he tried to cultivate. "What about other feelings besides pain or discomfort?" "Well, this might sound weird, but I have been feeling more energetic as of lately. If I could, I would be jumping around right now," Yuan said with a bittersweet smile. "Full of energy?" Dr. Wang looked at Yuan with wide eyes. This is his first time hearing such words coming from Yuan's mouth. "What about your diet? Have your meals changed lately?" Dr. Wang then asked. "No, I am still eating nothing but soup," Yuan said in a sighing voice. "What about the amount? Did the young lady increase your portions?" "No, she told me that herself not long ago." "I am going to feel your pulse now." Dr. Wang then turned his hand and began examining his pulses. A few moments later, Dr. Wang retrieved a stethoscope from his bag and began listening to Yuan's heartbeats. How strange," Dr. Wang suddenly mumbled in a puzzled voice that Light's novel. "Is there something wrong?" Yuan asked him with a worried frown. "Oh no. In fact, it's the opposite of that," Dr. Wang responded in a surprised voice, and he continued, "My eyes were not wrong. Your condition has indeed improved since our last checkup." "Light's novel? Really?" Yuan exclaimed in an excited voice. Even though his improved condition doesn't have any meaning overall and he's still crippled, it still made him happy to know that he was getting healthier, and it will also make Yu happy once she hears about it. "I wouldn't lie to my patients even if it's the last thing I do," Dr. Wang chuckled. A few minutes later, Yu returned to the room with a small plastic container that contained a little of the impurities that were discharged by Yuan. "Ho! This is the blank gunk that came from the young master's body? Fascinating." Dr. Wang looked at the impurities with great interest and he continued, "It resembles dirty engine oil at glance, but I have never seen anything like this before." "Can I open it?" He looked at Yu, who immediately looked hesitant. Yuro then walked to the door with Yuan before opening the door a little. Okay, you can open it now, Yuro said to him afterward. Dr. Wang stared at her with wide eyes. Surely the smell isn't as bad as they make it out to be, right? After swallowing his nervousness, Dr. Wang opened the container slightly and took a quick sniff of the black gunk inside. Dr. Wang gagged after smelling the stench and immediately sealed the container again. What in Lord's name was that foul smell? I had many unpleasant experiences with foul smells as a doctor, but this experience was almost unbearable. Dr. Wang exclaimed with trembling hands before placing it on the floor, as he didn't even dare to touch the container anymore. After a moment of silence, Dr. Wang continued, I will have no idea what that black gunk is without examining it more closely with proper equipment, so I'll bring it back to my lab first thing tomorrow to examine it. Thank you, Dr. Wang, Yuro said to him from the door, still not daring to approach him. Anyway, I have examined the young master's body and wasn't able to find anything wrong or different about him except the fact that his body is slightly healthier than before. Dr. Wang gave Yuro a brief explanation of the results. Nothing wrong with him? His health even improved? Are you sure about that, Dr. Wang? Yuro looked at him with a pleasantly surprised look. Yes, so you shouldn't worry about this incident too much. However, without identifying that black gunk, I do not dare to give you a clearer answer. That's okay. I am already more than satisfied with the results, Yuro said with a bright smile on her face. Did you hear that, brother? You're getting healthier. Yes, I heard, Yuan said with a slight smile on his face. Anyway, since there's nothing else we can do before I examine the black gunk, I will take my leave now. Though you should continue keeping an eye on the young master just in case anything else happens, and if that happens, make sure to call me, and I will drop everything and run here. I will. Thank you again, Dr. Wang. Yuro bowed to him as he left. Ha ha ha. I am envious of you, young master. If only I had such a caring sister to take care of me every day. Dr. Wang laughed loudly as he disappeared from their sight. Once Dr. Wang left, Yuro said to Yuan, Brother, let's sleep together tonight. The maids are still cleaning your room, and like Dr. Wang just said, I need to keep an eye on you. Okay, I'll be in your care tonight, Yuan said. A few minutes later, once Yuro returned to her own room with Yuan, she suddenly said, Oh, right. You still haven't eaten because of this incident. I will be right back, brother. After carrying Yuan onto her bed, Yuro disappeared into the kitchen to prepare dinner for him. Now that I am alone, let's try cultivating again. Even though it hurts like hell, the pain gradually lessens the more I try to cultivate, Yuan said inwardly as he prepared himself mentally for the pain. Sometime later, Yuan took a deep breath and began reciting the cultivation technique in his head.
Ouch. Ah. Shit. Ack.
Yuan spent nearly half an hour trying to cultivate while enduring the intense pain that came from it, but to no avail, feeling nothing but pain and with no progress.
Why?
Why can't I cultivate when there's clearly a reaction? Every time I feel like I am close to a breakthrough, the pain immediately interrupts my breakthrough. Yuan sighed inwardly. I guess I'll have to ask Xiao Hua and see if she knows something about this. Once Yuro returned to the room with dinner a few minutes later, Yuan decided to stop cultivating for the time being to eat dinner. Sometime later, Yuro said to him, Brother, you can go ahead and sleep first. I am going to surf the internet to see if there is anything we can do together tomorrow. Okay. Good night, Yuro. Yuan said to her. Good night, brother. After tucking Yuan into bed, Yuro went to her computer and began surfing the internet, and as usual, she went to look at the forums to see if there was anything new or important she should know about. Player Yuan made the headlines again. What did he do this time? Yuro saw the posts that were marked hot and quickly clicked on the link. Player Yuan has become the first player to learn a heaven rank technique. Player Yuan shocks the world again with his insane progression speed. Just how is Player Yuan these high-ranking techniques? Click here to find out. So Player Yuan now has a divine rank technique and a heaven rank technique, whilst the rest of us are still running around with mortal rank techniques. Yuro shook her head. This Player Yuan is simply too amazing and unfathomable. How is he able to achieve such results? What is he doing differently from others? Is he really even a real player? What if player Yuan is actually an admin screwing with everybody? That seemed more plausible than player Yuan being a cheater. After reading all of the new forum threads about player Yuan, Yu for some reason decided to turn to look at her brother, who was already sound asleep on her bed. After pondering for a good moment, she returned to the internet and searched for the wealth leaderboards.
What?
There are already so many people on the wealth leaderboards. Yu exclaimed in a low but surprised voice. It has only been a few days since the wealth leaderboards was unlocked by player Yuan, and there were already 1,000 players from all around the world that has managed to amass over 1 million gold. Obviously, these 1,000 people were not your regular players, but some of the wealthiest players in the world who took advantage of their wealth to buy gold coins from other players through real-world trading just so they can get onto the wealth leaderboards. Let's see if I can find my brother's name here. Yu began scrolling through the 1,000 names. After all, if Yuan could easily take out 431,000 gold coins and spend it on her without batting an eyelid, he should be on the wealth leaderboards. However, Yu was unable to find the name Yuan on the wealth leaderboards even after scrolling all the way to the very bottom of the list, which was not too surprising, as he'd spent nearly 500,000 already, and that could have kicked him off the wealth leaderboards. Now that I think about it, what is brother Tion's name in Cultivation Online? I never got to ask him, she thought to herself after this realization. Whatever, I'll just ask him tomorrow. Yu shrugged before returning to the forums, where she navigated to the events section. Once she was in the events section, where players from all over the cultivation world share their experience with past and ongoing events to others for contribution points, which they can redeem for gold coins in-game. Let's see if there are any ongoing events near Spring City that we can attend together. Yu proceeded to type Spring City in the search bar. Literally, a second later, over 10 pages of results that mentioned Spring City was in front of her. Most of these have already ended. Oh, what's this? Lightsville Omicron M. There will be a major event tomorrow at Spring City where the Lord of the City, the Xian family, will be hosting a disciple recruitment exam for the Dragon Essence Temple, a very prominent sect in the cultivation world. Only those above the 3rd level Spirit Apprentice realm can join. Dragon Essence Temple? Recruiting disciples. Yu raised her eyebrows. She then opened a new tab on her web browser and looked up the term sect. Let's see. Sects are an organization dedicated to the practice of cultivation and martial arts. Disciples from a sect can receive training from the sect elders and may even obtain valuable rewards from the sect to further assist their cultivation. Light's novel. So they are basically schools for cultivators. Yu then turned to look at Yuan again, thinking to herself, if I recall correctly, brother has always expressed his desire to experience school life. Even though he cannot do that in this world, he can definitely do it in the cultivation world. Albeit it'll be different from our schools, it's better than nothing at all. Good. It's decided. We'll try to join this sect together and do our best as cultivators. Yu nodded to herself with a resolute expression on her face. After looking around the internet for a few more minutes, Yu also went to bed, but since Yuan cannot feel his body and his body itself is quite fragile, she must make sure to keep a safe distance from him and even place some padding between him to make a small wall, as it would be disastrous if she accidentally rolled into him and injure his body. Once she closed her eyes, Yu fell asleep rather quickly. Yu woke up early in the morning, as usual, to clean herself before preparing herself for her piano lessons. Once her morning lessons were done, Yu went to prepare breakfast for Yuan. Good morning, Yu. Yuan greeted her when she returned to the room with food in her hands. Good morning, brother. It feels weird to be greeting you in my own room, she chuckled. After washing Yuan's face and brushing his teeth, Yu fed him chicken soup. Brother, I think I know what we should do next, she said to him as she fed him. What do you want to do? You have always wanted to experience school, right? Well, there are these places known as sects within Cultivation Online, and they are basically schools for cultivators. I know they're not the same, but it's the only way for you to experience school right now. Sects? What a coincidence. I was also about to ask if you wanted to join one with me. Yuan said in a surprised voice. Really? Then should we join one? She asked. Of course. Great. Then we should participate in the event in Spring City today.
Yuan said to him.
Event? What event? There's an event in Spring City where the lord of the city, the Xian family, will be recruiting disciples for the Dragon Essence Temple. If we pass this exam, we should be able to join this sect. The Xian family and the Dragon Essence Temple? If Yuan could see right now, he would be staring at Yuan with wide eyes filled with surprise. What a coincidence. Not only did he plan on joining the Dragon Essence Temple in the future, but he also knew the Xian family. Okay, that sounds good, Yuan said. Then it's decided. One more thing, brother. Your room is still being cleaned by the maids, so you'll play beside me today, she said to him.
Oh.
I forgot. Your gaming helmet was also submerged in that black gunk and was tossed in the trash last night, so we'll have to get you a new one. What? They threw away my gaming helmet. What about my account? Don't tell me I'll have to create a new account. You must retrieve that helmet no matter how bad it smells. Yuan cried out loud, his voice filled with panic. He cannot imagine what he'll do if he really has to create a new account because of this. What will happen to Xiaohua, who is still inside the necklace? Would she remain there forever? That's terrifying to even think about. There's no need to panic, brother. Did you forget? You can only have one account and one character, and it doesn't matter how many times you change the gaming helmet, you'll still be able to play your character. Oh, right. I indeed forgot about that. Yuan said in a low voice before sighing in relief. Anyway, I'll go tell someone to buy one right now. Yuan left the room to tell a maid to buy another console for Yuan. About an hour later, the maid returned to Yuan with a brand new gaming helmet. Once everything was prepared, Yuan and Yuan both laid on the same bed with the gaming helmet on their heads. I'll see you inside, brother. Yuan said to Yuan before pressing the power button on his helmet, sending him into the game first before going inside herself. Welcome back, brother Yu Tian. Xiaohua left the necklace a second after he logged on. Xiaohua, thank God you won't be trapped inside that necklace forever. He sighed again after seeing her cute face. However, Xiaohua merely looked at him with a puzzled look on her face. Why would she be trapped inside the necklace forever?
Previous.
Chapter Error Report. Chapter Error Report. Next. 3 reviews. Please share your thoughts. Lord Pro. 6 months ago.
Luke 264.
Thanks for the chapter. 010.
Pio.
11 months ago.
Luke 147.
It seemed like it would become boring if he joined a sect. 010. Alpha Nazafa. 1 year ago.
Luke 714. So he did join a sect, huh?
Even though I had guessed it, it still made me a little disappointed. 010. Panda Novel PN Community Hot Category Most Popular Latest Chapters Privacy Policy Hot Tags Popular Chinese Novels Romance Terms of Service Hot Article Josie for Ladies Fantasy DMCA Notices. Contact us. info@panda-novel.com. Copyright 2024 Panda Novel. Chapter 77. Yuan entered the game a few moments after Yuan. Are we all ready to take this exam? Yuan asked them. Exam. Xiaohua looked at Yuan, as she had no idea what they were talking about. Yuan proceeded to explain to Xiaohua their plans for today and how they are going to partake in this exam to become disciples for the Dragon Essence Temple. Brother Tian is going to become a disciple for the Dragon Essence Temple, but it would be much more efficient for you to stay as a rogue cultivator and find resources in the wilderness than to join a sect, since you will have to compete against tens of thousands of disciples from the sect for resources, and the resources you get are not very valuable. Xiaohua said to him, finding his purpose quite puzzling and unnecessary. I know what you mean, but I am not becoming a disciple for the resources. Instead, I want to experience life as a cultivator and see how the other cultivators live. If I am going to become stronger as a cultivator, I should know more about them, right? Yuan said to her. Xiaohua turned silent after hearing his response. Indeed, Yuan needed a better understanding of cultivators and the cultivation world, as he was quite naive in this regard. Sometime later, Yuan and Xiaohua began making their way towards this exam site while being led by Yuan. As they were walking, Yuan asked Xiaohua, Xiaohua, can I ask you a few questions regarding cultivation? I need some advice. What is it, Brother Tian? She looked at him. Do you know why one might feel pain all over their body when they try to cultivate? It feels like being stabbed by needles. Hearing Yuan's words, Xiaohua immediately frowned with a worried expression on her face. Brother Tian, are you feeling pain when cultivating? She asked him, worried that it might be a side effect from eating too many monster cores. No. I am just asking. He quickly shook his head. Well, there are a few reasons why one would feel pain during cultivation, Xiaohua said, and she continued. One of them is simply because their meridians are blocked by impurities or other unnatural things. Another common reason would be damaged meridians. If one has damaged meridians, they would not be able to cultivate until healing them. What about a normal person who is trying to cultivate for the first time? When they try to cultivate, their body will feel intense pain, but it also feels as though they are making progress, like they're getting closer to their breakthrough. One's circumstances do not matter, Brother Tian. If their body experiences pain when trying to cultivate, there must be something wrong with their meridians or body, Xiaohua said to him. Then are there any methods to help with that kind of problem? Yuan asked. Yes, there are treasures that cleanses one's meridians with some even restoring them to a healthy condition. If one is having trouble trying to become a cultivator, there are even treasures that can forcefully assist with their breakthrough. However, since medicines and treasures that can heal or affect one's meridians are very valuable, most people won't be able to buy them. Xiaohua then continued. In fact, the 7-colored herb in Brother Tian's possession is a key ingredient in many pill recipes that can affect one's meridians, hence why it's so sought after and valuable. The 7-colored herb. Yuan wondered if he would be able to cultivate in the real world if he consumes these treasures that can heal his meridians. After walking around the large city for half an hour, Yuan and the others finally reached the place of the exam, and they were able to spot it from very far away due to the large gathering that was already present there. Man, I can't wait to join the Dragon Essence Temple. What cultivation level are you now? I just reached 5th level Spirit Apprentice. Since I don't have much time to play, I only managed to reach the 3rd level today. What do you think the exam will look like? Who knows? I have never done this before. Me neither. There appeared to be a good chunk of people within the crowd that were players, and they were all filled with excitement as they waited for the exam to start. Wow, there's a lot of people here, Yuan exclaimed after seeing the sea of people there. That's to be expected, since the Dragon Essence Temple is a renowned sect, and there are many players that still haven't joined a sect yet.
Yuro said to him.
Once they got closer to the area, Yuan looked around for the Xian family. I don't see Xian Wuhan or her father. Are they going to be here later? Yuan wondered to himself when he couldn't see their figures anywhere. After standing around for a few minutes, a group of individuals wearing similar clothes approached the area. Lights fell. If you are here for the initial exam for the Dragon Essence Temple, make a single file line here. The person in front of the small group, a middle-aged man with an unfriendly face, shouted loudly, Lights novel. Very quickly, the crowd began scrambling around. A few minutes later, Yuan and Yuro managed to secure a spot somewhere in the middle of the line, but they were still behind at least 100 people. Once there was an orderly line that snaked around the entire area, the middle-aged man spoke loudly. I am Elder Kong, a sect elder for the outer disciples from the Dragon Essence Temple, and I am here today to look for potential new disciples to join our sect. This is just the initial exam to see whether you are qualified to take the real exams, so you won't become a disciple for passing this exam. Once you qualify for this exam, you'll be able to partake in the real exam directly at the Dragon Essence Temple 4 days from now. Oh, so we won't be able to experience this place together even if we pass this. Yuro sighed and she continued, I also have school on that day, so I will miss the real examination regardless. Even if we can't go today, we can do it when you can play again, Yuan said to her. I won't join this sect without you. No, I don't want to be a burden for you, brother. My playing schedule is very limited, so I won't be able to play with you too often. I want you to experience the sect as a disciple even without me. Are you sure? Yuan asked her with a slight frown on his face. Of course. I wanted to join the sect for you, brother. If you don't join the sect because of me, I'll feel extremely guilty about it, since that's the opposite of my intentions. Yuro said to him. After a moment of silence, Yuan nodded. Okay, I'll join the sect. That's good. Yuro smiled. Once I become a disciple, perhaps I can ask them to make an exception for you, so you'll be able to become a disciple even without taking the exam. Yuan then said to her, unless you become a very important individual in the sect, I don't think they would make that kind of exception. Yuro shook her head. There's no need to worry about that because Brother Tian will definitely become a famous disciple in no time, Xiaohua said to her. With Yuan's talents, he could easily become a core disciple for the Dragon Essence Temple. Is that so? Yuro mumbled, wondering where her confidence was coming from. While her brother may be exceptionally talented, there are countless geniuses in the cultivation world, and a prominent place such as the Dragon Essence Temple will surely have a few geniuses that could rival Yuan, right? After all, there is a saying, there's always someone better than you. After standing in the line for half an hour, it was finally Yuan's turn to take the exam. Name? Elder Kong asked Yuan without looking at him, keeping his own gaze on the clipboard in his hands. Yu Tian, he said. What's your cultivation level and age? Elder Kong then asked in an uninterested tone, almost like he didn't want to be there. Yuan immediately hesitated. Fifth level spirit apprentice, 18 years old. He decided to lie. Fifth level spirit apprentice. Yuro looked at him with raised eyebrows and a suspicious gaze. Although she cannot see his cultivation level, surely he must be above fifth level spirit apprentice, right? After all, he defeated 4 players at the same level with ease. Yu Tian, 5th level spirit apprentice, 18 years old. Elder Kong wrote his name and age on the clipboard without even looking at him. Place your hands on the crystal ball behind me. If it glows green, you pass. Next, Yuan nodded and went to touch the crystal ball that was managed by the disciples that came with Elder Kong. A few moments later, the crystal ball glowed a bright green. Congratulations, you pass. Take this token. You'll need it for the real exam. Without it, you won't be able to partake in the examination, so don't lose it. The disciple said to Yuan before handing him a small jade token. You have obtained Dragon Essence Temple Exam Token. Thank you, Yuan said to them before leaving the place with the others. You're not going to take the exams, Xiaohua? Yuro asked her afterward. No. Xiaohua shook her head. Chapter 78. Why not? Aren't you going to the sect with Brother Tian? Yuro raised her eyebrows. Xiaohua follows Brother Tian wherever he goes. She quickly nodded. How will you follow my brother into the sect if you're not a disciple? Yuro asked. Xiaohua can follow Brother Tian as a servant since disciples are allowed to have servants with them, she responded. As servant. Yuro looked at her with wide eyes. However, while Xiaohua called herself a servant, Yuro did not think about the pet system and took her words quite literally as a servant like the maids in their Yu family's household. By the way, what should we do now that we cannot join the sect instantly? Should we just return to doing quests? Yuan asked a moment later. I want to learn the technique we just bought, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. Yuro sighed. It's okay. Have some confidence in yourself, Yuro. After all, you're also a genius yourself, Yuan said to her with a gentle smile on his face. Brother. Yuro nodded a moment later. Xiaohua. Do you know of a good place where she can practice silently? Should we return to Cultivator's Haven? Yuan decided to ask her. No, there are better places for learning techniques, she said. Just like how there are formations that can speed up your cultivation speed, there are also formations that can help with your comprehension. However, it doesn't actually boost one's comprehension skill, only create an atmosphere where one can concentrate much easier. That sounds like the perfect place for learning techniques. What is this place called? Yuro spoke with excitement in her voice. Pagoda of Tranquility, Xiaohua said. Pagoda of Tranquility? I don't think there's a building in this city with that name, Yuro said. That's because there isn't one in Spring City. If you want to go to that place, there's one in Nature City, which is about 1,000 miles away. 1,000 miles. It'll take us days to get there, Yuro exclaimed. It'll only take a few hours if we fly there, Xiaohua said. Fly? Yuro looked at her with wide eyes filled with surprise. Xiaohua nodded with a calm expression on her face before she started levitating in the air. Why, you're really flying. Yu Rou then turned to look at Yuan and asked him, Did you know about this? Pretty much. Yuan nodded. Then he continued, But how are we supposed to take her with us? I don't think she can use the flying sword even with your help. Brother Tian can carry her, Xiaohua said. I guess that could work. Yuan nodded. He then retrieved the flying sword and waited for Xiaohua to support it with her spiritual energy. I'm going to carry you now, Yu Rou, Yuan said as he lifted Yu Rou's entire body effortlessly. Be brother? Yu Rou's face immediately flushed with redness when Yuan suddenly carried her princess style. Hold still, Yu Rou, Yuan said to her as he jumped onto the flying sword. This is a bit awkward, but I should manage. Yuan thought to himself as he adjusted his balance and posture. Are we ready to go, Brother Tian? Xiaohua asked him. Yes, go ahead, but don't go too fast. Yuan nodded. A moment later, Xiaohua flew towards the bright sky whilst controlling the flying sword. Look! Immortals! The pedestrians pointed at their disappearing figure with awe on their faces, and the players watched with dazed looks, hoping they would be able to do the same in the future. Aewa! Yu Rou screamed with her eyes closed when they suddenly started moving, not daring to open them even many moments later, and her arms were tightly wrapped around Yuan's neck. Lights full Omicron. Are you okay, Yu Rou? Yuan asked her with a smile on his face. You won't fall, so don't worry. However, Yu Rou still refused to open her eyes until many minutes later when she was finally getting used to the feeling of flying in the air, but her slender arms remained hugging Yuan's neck tightly. Lights novel. Wow. Yu Rou looked at the passing scenery with her eyes filled with wonder. What do you think, Yu Rou? Isn't this world beautiful? Yuan asked her a moment later. Yes, Yu Rou said. After looking at the scenery for a few minutes, Yu Rou turned to look at Yuan, who held a gentle smile on his handsome face as he carried her like some kind of prince, and Yu Rou's gaze would remain on his face for the next few minutes. What's the matter? Yuan looked at her and asked after realizing that she was staring intensely at him. And nothing, Yu Rou quickly said in a startled voice, feeling her heart rate skyrocketing afterward. Actually, I wanted to ask about Xiaohua. How come she can fly? What cultivation is she at? Spirit King? Yuan responded in a weird tone. Spirit King? What cultivation level is that? Yu Rou raised her eyebrows in a puzzled manner. I think it's like 5 realms above the Spirit Apprentice realm. 5 realms above me. That's ridiculously high. And you had someone powerful like her following you around this entire time. You can literally do anything in this game if you wanted with her around. Yu Rou stared at him with a shocked gaze, and even more questions appeared inside her head. How come someone as powerful as Xiaohua is following him around? Who is Xiaohua exactly? Yu Rou narrowed her eyes at Yuan with a suspicious gaze, and she asked him, Brother, I have been meaning to ask you this question for a while now, but what is your in-game name? Yuan's body immediately stiffened after hearing her question, and his back and hands quickly became sweaty. Why did I pick Yuan as my name? What if she learns about that because of this? I don't want to lose her. Yuan sighed inwardly. Brother? Are you okay? Why aren't you saying anything? It's just your in-game name. There's no need to be so secretive. Yu Rou said to him a moment later, her suspicions growing even stronger. I could lie to her, but she will learn the truth sooner or later, about my name and that, and I cannot bear the guilt of lying straight to her face, not after everything that she's done, sacrificed for me. After seeing the perplexed expression on Yuan's face, Yu Rou said, It's okay, brother. Although I don't know the reason. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. I can wait until you are ready to tell me. No, it's okay. Yuan suddenly said. I'll tell you. Are you sure? You don't have to force yourself. While there are a few reasons why I don't want to say it, you are my precious little sister, and I simply can't say no to you, Yuan said with a bittersweet on his face. After taking a deep breath, Yuan spoke in a slightly shaky voice. In this world, I have given myself the name Yuan. Yuan? Yu Rou looked at him with wide eyes filled with surprise, but she was not shocked. In fact, She was feeling somewhat relieved. After staring at Yuan for a good minute, Yuro turned to look at Xiaohua, who was staring back at her with a silent gaze. Yuro then closed her eyes and took a deep breath before speaking in a surprisingly calm voice. I see, so you were player Yuan this entire time. I'm sorry for trying to hide it from you, Yuro. It's just that there are many people who are angry at me and trying to hunt me for some reason, and I didn't want you to think of me as some villain or someone who is hated by others. Yuro shook her head and even caressed his cheeks with her hand. Don't be silly, brother. I don't care what the others think about you, and even if the entire world is against you, I would never hate you. After all, you are still my precious brother, who is always there when I needed someone. She then continued, and I think I know the reason why so many people are trying to hunt you, so you don't need to worry about that. Really? Why? Yuan asked her. It's simple, brother. They are jealous of you, of your talents. No matter if it's the real world or in video games, there will always be people who will be envious of your talents, so you shouldn't pay too much attention to them. Anyway, as expected of you, brother. Not only did you shock the world with your talents in the real world, but you are also causing quite the commotion in the gaming scene. No matter where you go, whether you are aware or not, you are always in some kind of spotlight. Haha, you are exaggerating, Yuro. Whether I am exaggerating or not, it is a fact that you have once again become the center of attention across the world. Although the world may no longer care about the name Yuan after you disappeared from the entertainment world, everybody is currently paying attention to the name Yuan and watching your every step, so make sure you don't let them down, brother. Of course, I will also be watching you. Yuro said to him with a smile on her beautiful face. Yuan nodded. So Brother Tian is actually the mysterious player Yuan, huh? Yuro thought to herself with a subtle smile on her face as she rested her head on Yuan's chest as they soared across the sky on a flying sword. No wonder why I was so interested in his identity. Maybe I somehow knew that it was my brother, hence why I took interest in him in the first place. As for player Yuan being a little girl, it must be Xiaohua that they're talking about since they're always together. How did they even mistake her for my brother? If mother and father learn about this, they will probably be shocked, but I cannot tell them, or they might try to take advantage of brother again, and I cannot allow him to suffer anymore. Yuro lifted her head slightly to look at Yuan's handsome face again, and he looked much better than before, as he felt as though the invisible mountain on his shoulders had disappeared after telling Yuro the truth. Player Yuan, the only player in the world with a divine grade and heaven grade technique. He also has a divine grade servant. Yuro suddenly realized something, and she opened her mouth to speak. Brother, you have a divine grade servant, right? What does it look like? Can you summon it for me to see later? Yuan turned to look at Xiaohua and said, I'm pretty sure you have already met her. Yuro also turned to look at Xiaohua, her gaze filled with shock. What? Xiaohua is the divine grade servant. Humans can also be servants. I had no idea that was even possible. Yuro exclaimed after learning this shocking information. No wonder why she's following you around despite her crazy cultivation level. You sure are lucky to find someone like her, brother, Yuro said to him. However, Xiaohua shook her head and said, No, Xiaohua is the lucky one to have met Brother Tian. You can call me Yuan again, Xiaohua, Yuan said to her. Okay, Brother Yuan. Xiaohua nodded, feeling more familiar with this name. Brother, can you tell me about your adventures as Yuan? Yuro asked him some time later, and she continued, I would love to know the story behind player Yuan's achievements. Yuan nodded and said, Of course. He proceeded to tell her about his adventure since he started the game. He began the story with how he met Xiaohua. Then he told her about his encounter with these two experts fighting each other in the sky before his adventures at the Flying Sword Sect. Then he recalled what happened at the auction house and how he managed to unlock the wealth leaderboards, becoming the richest player in the game instantly. He told her about the dangers of this world and how he encountered and killed the demonic spider. And lastly, he spoke about what happened at Pang City and how he defended the city from tens of thousands of monsters, eventually slaying the Mountain Lord and becoming the hero of an entire city. Yuro held a shocked face as she listened to his ridiculous story that sounded like a fantasy, yet her heart was filled with admiration for Yuan. who managed to achieve so many unbelievable things in such a short time. What a crazy adventure you've experienced, brother. It's like you started your adventure in the endgame while everyone else started from the very beginning. If not for you, I would still be doing gathering quests right now, and probably for the rest of the week. What about your goals, brother? What do you hope to achieve in this game? Yuan then asked him. I originally wanted to just explore this world at my own pace and have fun together with you, but now. Yuan paused for a moment before continuing. I want to become strong and raise my cultivation base so that nobody can bully us like what happened when those players tried to rob us. Then my goal is to become strong enough so that I won't slow you down, Mr. Player Yuan. Yuan chuckled. Yuan smiled and said, like I said, Yuan,
You don't have to worry about that.
I'll play with you regardless of how far you are behind, and I am also going to do my best to assist you. Now that I know your real identity, I won't be humble about it any longer, she laughed. A few hours later, they reached Nature City, landing a few miles from the city because Yuan didn't want them to attract too much attention with their flying abilities. After paying the entrance fees, Yuan asked the guards by the entrance, Do you know where Pagoda of Tranquility is? Yes, if you walk straight down this road, you'll arrive at this 3-story pagoda in about 10 minutes. One of the guards quickly answered her question with a slightly bashful expression on his face after seeing Yuan's pretty face. Thank you, Yuan said with a blinding smile, and the guard felt as though an arrow had pierced his heart. Once they knew which way to go, Yuan and the other two began making their way to the Pagoda of Tranquility. Sometime later, they arrived at this luxurious pagoda that gave a similar atmosphere to Cultivator's Haven. Let's go inside, Yuan said as he entered the building. Welcome to Pagoda of Tranquility. How may I help you all today? The receptionist behind the counter waved at them. I'd like to rent a room, Yuan said. Which floor would you like a room in? The higher floors will have a higher quality formation, improving the effects and your concentration. The best room you have available, Yuan responded without hesitation. We have 3 rooms available on the 3rd floor, and that would be 10 gold coins per hour. The receptionist said. Lights novel. Lights fell. Only 10 gold per hour? This is much cheaper than Cultivator's Haven. Yuan thought to himself. Let me get 2 rooms, 10 hours each, he said a moment later. That would be 200 gold coins, said the receptionist. Yuan nodded and handed him the money. May I know your names? Yu Tian Yuan and Xiao Hua, he said. A few moments later, after writing their names down, the receptionist handed them 2 keys. Thank you for coming to our Pagoda of Tranquility. The receptionist bowed to them before they went upstairs. Once they were on the 3rd floor, Yuan said to Yuan, Brother, I am going to spend 4 hours and see if I can learn it by then. Don't worry, Yuan. You can spend as much time as you need, and knowing your talents, I am confident that you'll learn it in no time, Yuan said to her. Yuan nodded and went into one of the available rooms that had a wooden door instead of a boulder this time, as learning techniques did not require as much peace and silence as one would during cultivation. Once Yuan was inside the room, she immediately sat down on the floor and retrieved the wind blade technique from her storage pouch, and she began studying it with a serious expression on her face. Meanwhile, inside Yuan's room, he was sitting in the lotus position as Xiao Hua recited Heaven's secret art for him. Even though he does not have any new techniques to learn, he was nowhere near mastering the divine grade technique, and he wanted to take this chance to improve his understanding as much as possible. If I have a better understanding of this technique, I might be able to finally cultivate in the real world too. Yuan thought to himself as he closed his eyes and listened to Xiao Hua recite the technique for him. For hours passed in the blink of an eye, and Yuan knocked on Yuan's door. How did it go, Yuan? Did you learn the technique? Yuan asked her after opening the door. No, she shook her head and she continued, but I am getting very close to understanding it. I just need a few more hours. Take as long as you need, Yuan. If 10 hours isn't enough, I'll pay for more. Yuan said to her, It's all right, brother. I should learn the technique with the remaining 6 hours left. She spoke with confidence written all over her face before she returned to her own room and continued to study the technique. Yuan also returned to listening to Xiao Hua's voice shortly later. A few hours later, Your comprehension for Heaven's secret art has reached a new level. Heaven's secret art mastery level 2, 3. You have learned Heaven's third secret art, Heavenly Domain. Heavenly Domain. Rank, Divine. Mastery level 1. Description: holding absolute authority within your domain. Dominate the battlefield and pressure your enemies with the Heavenly Domain. Heavenly Domain. Yuan mumbled in a low voice after learning this technique. Congratulations, Brother Yuan. You are only in the spirit warrior realm, but your understanding of Heaven's secret art is already near Xiao Hua's level. It's almost like this technique was made for you, Xiao Hua said to him afterward. Thank you, Xiao Hua. This array below us is amazing. My mind is much clearer than normal, allowing me to concentrate even more. Yuan said to her. Anyway, even though there's still some time before our time is over, let's leave for now and wait for Yu Rou to finish. Yuan and Xiao Hua left the room shortly later and proceeded to stand outside Yu Rou's room, patiently waiting for her to finish her last hour inside the room. Chapter 80. You have learned Wind Blade. Wind Blade. Rank Mortal. Mastery level 1. Description: summon wind blades that can attack foes from a distance. Requires at least 500 Qi to activate.
Yes.
I finally managed to learn it. Yu Rou exclaimed in excitement after seeing the notification, feeling relieved that she did not have to waste any more time on it. How much time do I have left in this room? Yu Rou turned to look at the timer beside the door. 10 minutes left. Her eyes widened with surprise after seeing that it had taken her nearly 10 hours to learn a single mortal rank technique. I really cannot compare to Brother Tian, who can learn techniques as easy as breathing, she sighed loudly. After storing the wind blade technique into her storage pouch, Yu Rou went outside to knock on Yuan's door, but to her surprise, he was already outside and waiting for her. Brother, when did you come out? I didn't make you wait too long, right? She asked him. No, we just came out, he said with a smile. Anyway, how did it go? Were you able to learn the technique? Yu Rou nodded with a bright smile. I barely managed to learn it in those 10 hours. Congratulations, Yu Rou, Yuan said. I am nothing compared to you, brother. Yu Rou shook her head. That's not true, he said. You don't need to try and comfort me, brother. I have known very well about the difference between our talents for years now. This is nothing new. Yu Rou said, and she continued. Anyway, now that I have learned a new technique, I would like to use it, so let's go hunting some monsters. Yuan nodded. Okay, where do you want to go? Anywhere that has low-level monsters, preferably ones around the first level to second level Spirit Apprentice, she said. There are plenty of beasts below the third level Spirit Apprentice a few miles from this city, Xiao Hua said. Great. Then let's go.
Yu Rou said.
They proceeded to walk downstairs and returned the keys to the receptionist before leaving the building. Once they were outside, Yuan retrieved his flying sword and jumped onto it with Yu Rou in his arms. A few moments later, they soared towards the sky and flew for a few minutes until they were a couple of miles away from Nature City. There are a few first-level Spirit Apprentice beasts below us, Xiao Hua said to them.
Oh.
I want to fight them, Yu Rou said. Xiao Hua nodded, and they descended to the ground a moment later. Where is it? Yu Rou asked after they landed. 200 meters that way. Xiao Hua pointed south. Okay. Yu Rou proceeded to walk in that direction with wide strides, clearly impatient to try out her new skill. Slow down, Yu Rou. The monsters aren't going anywhere, Yuan said to her with a smile after seeing her excitement. A few moments later, Yu Rou could finally see the monster. It was a slightly oversized fox with orange fur and red eyes. That's a red-eyed fox. They are nimble but weak. If you don't hit it with your first strike, you won't have a second chance because it will run away, Xiao Hua said in a low voice. Lights fell. Yu Rou nodded and retrieved her spirit waver. After taking a deep breath, she gathered her spiritual energy before waving her fan a moment later. Wind Blade. An arc of wind resembling long-distance sword attacks suddenly flew from the spirit waver and at the red-eyed fox. However, because this is Yu Rou's first time using the skill and the spirit waver, her aim was way off target, missing the red-eyed fox by a long shot.
Bang.
The wind blade did a weird turn in the air before flying into a tree and destroying it with ease. When the red-eyed fox saw this, it immediately turned around and ran away.
Wow.
No wonder why this skill costs so much despite being a mortal rank technique. It's really powerful. Yuro's eyes flickered with excitement after seeing the skill's destructive power. The strength is comparable to a technique at the Earth rank technique, Xiao Hua said to her. And she continued, if it doesn't hit the target, it won't matter even if the technique is the strongest in the world, though. Light's novel. I know, but it's actually very hard to control this skill. Yuro sighed. Unless your brother Yuan, one would normally require many hours of training before they can use a newly learned technique properly. Even if I have to practice for hundreds of hours, I am going to perfect the skill that my brother bought me, Yuro said with a resolute expression on her face. Sometime later, they continued to hunt low-level monsters with Xiaohua giving the directions and Yuro trying her best to hit her targets. An hour and countless misses later, Yuro finally managed to hit her target with Wind Blade, brutally cutting the monster in half as it did to the tree before. Yua, isn't this technique like a little too powerful? Yuro realized this after she witnessed how the monster nearly exploded into a bloody mess.